Hey guys, tonight we're not sailing into pirate-infested waters or climbing aboard any splintery wooden ships with sunburnt sailors yelling about treasure. No parrots, no peg legs, no suspiciously damp maps that definitely smell like they were stored in someone's shoe. Nope, tonight we're stepping into something far more peaceful, far more meaningful, and infinitely more comforting. The world of Christian stories, the divine mission of Jesus, and the quiet miracles that shaped hearts, healed hurts, and changed the course of history. Before we get cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this corner of the internet. If not, it's okay. Jesus once multiplied loaves and fish. I'm sure he can handle one unsub. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. Somehow, it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And honestly, these stories hit differently at 2 a.m., like a warm lantern glowing in a quiet room. Now dim those lights. Turn on a fan for that soft, white noise breeze. Melt into your pillow, relax your shoulders, and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because pirates or rats are coming for your toes this time, but because we're entering a story world where peace, compassion, and gentle miracles make everything around you feel still. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to walk beside Jesus? Not in paintings, not in movies, but in the real world of ancient, dusty roads, small villages filled with chatter, and crowds who followed him because something about him felt different. Have you ever imagined what it was like to see water turned to wine before your own eyes, or to watch a storm quiet down with just a command? What did it feel like to sit among people who had carried their pain for years? Illness, loneliness, fear. And suddenly everything changed with a single touch, a single word. Tonight, we're not rushing through miracles like a highlight reel. We're slowing down. We're moving gently through moments of purpose, compassion, and divine intention. The kind of moments that soothe the mind and soften the heart. Picture the world back then. Lamps flickering in the night, sandals brushing against dirt paths, small wooden boats drifting on calm waters, and fields stretching out beneath star-filled skies. The world was simpler, quieter, but also heavier in its struggles. People searching for meaning, for hope, for healing. And then, Jesus steps into that landscape with a message not of fear, but of love. Not of division, but unity. Not of condemnation, but redemption. A message that resonated so deeply it carried across centuries and still reaches you, right here, right now, as you're lying in bed, letting sleep slowly loosen its grip on your thoughts. So settle in. Let your breathing slow. Let the warmth of this story wrap around you like a soft blanket. Tonight, we'll walk gently through the miracles and teachings of Jesus, not as distant legends, but as moments filled with humanity, humor, purpose, faith, and quiet wonder. Stories that remind you that even in the darkest moments, a guiding light has always been there. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Word was in the beginning with God. Before time had shape, before galaxies spun in their endless spirals, before the first whisper of wind crossed the face of the deep, there was the Word. Not a sound, not a fragment of language, but a divine presence, pure, eternal, and unified with God. In the beginning, the Word existed with him, inseparable from his essence. In this place beyond creation, the universe rested like a thought waiting to be spoken. A celestial stillness fills the scene. A boundless expanse stretches outward, not yet filled with stars or skies, but shimmering with potential. Soft waves of divine light width elongating the darkness, with a glow that feels ancient yet endlessly new. The universe is quiet, held in the loving anticipation of God's creative breath. And within this silence, the Word stands as perfect wisdom, perfect love, and perfect purpose. Then, with a tenderness that moves like a breeze across eternity, creation begins to unfold. Light pours forth, blooming across the void like a dawn that has no beginning and no end. Stars spark into being, scattered across the heavens like jewels placed carefully by a loving hand. Nebulas swirl with color and majesty, their luminous shapes dancing in harmony with the rhythm of divine intention. Planets spin into place, each suspended with precision, each touched by the same guiding love. In this cosmic majesty, creation is not chaotic, but peaceful, formed not by force, but by grace. Every beam of light, every curve of a galaxy, every gentle motion of celestial dust bears the imprint of the Word. Through him, all things come into being, and without him, nothing that exists takes shape. His presence is woven into the fabric of the cosmos, steady and radiant. As the scene shifts, the divine light softens. The grandeur of galaxies fades into a tender glow, warm and inviting. This is the light not of creation alone, but of incarnation. The unfathomable mystery begins to unfold. The Word, eternal, infinite, divine, chooses to become flesh. Not descending in thunder, not wrapped in overwhelming brilliance, but entering quietly into the world he made. The light that shaped stars now rests gently over a humble earth. The cosmic majesty narrows into something intimate, something human, something filled with grace and truth. Soft, ethereal radiance surrounds the moment of incarnation. The divine reaches into the ordinary, taking on the rhythms of life, breath, heartbeat, footsteps on dusty ground. The one who was with God in the beginning dwells among humanity, not distant or unreachable, but close enough to touch, close enough to comfort, close enough to redeem. In this tender glow, the mystery deepens. How can the infinite become finite? How can the Creator enter his own creation? Yet this is the heart of the story. Light choosing to walk among shadows, truth choosing to sit with the broken, grace choosing to live beside those who long for hope. The Word becomes flesh, not simply to be seen, but to be known, to reveal the kindness of God, the compassion of God, the steady love of God. His presence becomes a lamp in the darkness, a refuge for the weary, a guide for the wandering soul. As the ethereal light continues to glow, wrapping the scene in soft comfort, the profound mystery settles like a gentle whisper, that the one who shaped galaxies also shaped a life among us, that the eternal became present, that grace and truth lived, and still live, near. And in this peaceful radiance, the heart finds rest, knowing that the same Word who was in the beginning remains a light that no darkness can overcome. Chapter 2. A Voice Crying in the Wilderness. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we journey to a time colder than your ex's heart. Early Roman Empire, where people wore more wool than a sheep on a cold winter's night. Imagine waking up with a long beard, probably because razors were more of a myth than a household item, and you've just stumbled into a dusty, sun-baked world. Yes, it's the early years of the ministry of Jesus Christ, perfect for some divine miracles and slightly questionable fashion choices. Before we get swept away by dusty sandals and flowing robes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. But only if you actually enjoy this. If not, well, let's just say my cousin Dave might have told me that your taste in bedtime stories could use some divine intervention. Now, dim the lights, turn on that fan, yes, the one that sounds like a dying donkey, and get comfortable. Picture it. Your home is a tent with an entirely unwarranted amount of straw and just enough time to feel guilty over your life choices. Your evening dinner options range from stale bread to fermented fish. Ever considered what it would be like to invite someone over for dinner and serve them, well, a lot of nothing? Have you ever suspected that playdates in philosophy led to bread-making disasters? How about your thrilling social accounts only containing, "Today, we turned the sheep again," or I really think I should work on my camel riding skills. Yep, it's a harrowing life where the woodpeckers laugh at you, and the goats seem to turn their backs as if they have better plans. Now, congratulations! You've just woken up in 26 AD, as John the Baptist stands beside the Jordan River. A man of rugged devotion with a wardrobe that screams, "I want to be a hermit, but I have commitments." He's out there, soaking wet, declaring himself a voice crying in the wilderness, preparing the path for someone quite far more exciting than himself, known only as the Messiah. Picture this. The Jordan River is flowing like a hipster coffee shop on a Sunday morning. You can taste the sweetness of the figs and hear the murmur of people who think they have profound thoughts, but are mostly just inquiring about the best route to get water. Is that fish fresh enough? Is the existential crisis of the day. As you approach John, he points dramatically towards an unseen figure, his enthusiasm a whirlwind of locust bits and honey. "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near," he declares. Let's be real though. Those peasants standing nearby are thinking, did he just suggest we all dress in camel's hair and eat bugs? I mean, to each their own, but some of us are still clinging to our olive oil and bread diet. And if you're picturing John auditioning for some ancient reality show called When Wilderness Meets Wardrobe Malfunctions, you'd be spot on. Ever tried rolling out of bed with unkempt hair while simultaneously shouting life advice at disinterested passers-by? As you soak in this vibrant scene, breathe in the fresh whiff of the river mixed with the unmistakable earthy aroma of humility that wafts through the air. You can practically feel the ancient dust settling on your shoulders like a divine shower that forgot how to wash off. The crowd? Well, let's just say they're a mixed bag. Some genuinely seeking the divine, others just there for a good sideshow. Do you think he'll dunk me in the river or just sprinkle me? One might wonder aloud, nervously adjusting their sandals in a way that suggests they're ready for anything. Hoping for a miracle here, or at least a really good Instagram moment. Still, John the Baptist, with his enthusiasm and fervor, is setting the stage for something monumental. But right now, he's in the moment, wild, unapologetic, and a bit like someone trying to sell you the latest religion on a corner of the street. As his words echo off the riverbanks, there's a sense that something extraordinary is on the horizon. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the grand leap into the unknown. Delightfully terrifying, like committing to an online cooking course when you can barely boil water. So, as the sun sets on this historical panorama, let's pause for a moment. Feel the breeze swirl round you, hear the gurgle of the Jordan, and remember that in this tenuous thread of life, like John, sometimes all we can be is a voice, rugged, quirky, and wonderfully human. Now, let's drift further into our story, shall we? Chapter 3. The Wedding Feast at Cana. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we'll traverse through something sparkling and exciting, like that fizzing soda you shouldn't have at bedtime. A wedding feast in Cana of Galilee. Imagine it. Everywhere you look, there's joy dancing in the air like toddlers on sugar. Nervous energy and laughter bubbling over until, it hits a snag. The wine runs out. But worry not, for we're not just dealing with any guests. We've got Jesus and a very prompt mother ready to save the day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. But only if you actually enjoy this. Otherwise, well, let's just say my cousin Dave might have told me that your taste in biblical tales could use some divine guidance. So, dim the lights, adjust the room temperature. Trust me, you don't want it feeling like you've just stepped into a Roman bakery, and get cozy. Picture this scene. Laughter echoing off ancient stone walls, beautifully woven tapestries capturing memories of the day, and everyone dressed to the nines. Or perhaps the threes, if fashion hasn't quite reached that point yet. Have you ever thought about wedding planning in 26 AD? What's the dress code? Goatskin chic versus flowing linen? Who forgot the seating arrangements? And, more importantly, How many people actually know that Aunt Sally's goat cheese pie is a disaster? Oh, to be a fly on those bread rolls decorating the banquet table. Now, congratulations! You've just woken up in 26 AD in the village of Cana, where the atmosphere is light and bubbly, just like the wine that's all but evaporated. The sun casts a warm glow over the crowd, who are blissfully unaware of the incoming storm. No, not the weather, dear listener. A wine crisis. Picture it, the beautiful bride and groom beaming at each other, and the guests toasting successes with goblets. To love, laughter, and happily ever after, raises one old man, only to take a sip and exclaim, "Wait, did this come from the lowest tier of the vineyard? Did the vineyard owner just pull a fast one on me?" Amidst the celebration, Mary, the mother of Jesus, surveys the scene. Oh, and the look on her face is priceless. Kind of like when you try to camouflage the fridge leftovers as gourmet meals. It's that moment when you realize the wine supply is emptier than your motivation to exercise on a Monday. The room might as well have lost all its sparkle, akin to a party without snacks. With her maternal radar finely tuned, Mary approaches Jesus. They have no more wine. How casual that sounds, right? It's like going up to a dad fixing a leaky sink and saying, "Hey, could you also save the world while you're at it?" Bless her heart, she's basically the ultimate life coach, expecting a miracle fix, like asking a genie for 3 wishes. Jesus, with a hint of banter in his voice, responds, "Dear woman, why do you involve me? My hour has not yet come." Classic mom move. Though he might be the son of God, she's still the one in charge of the dinner etiquette. So you don't think it's a good idea to have a party that lasts longer than the drinks? It's a classic family moment, snark levels high. But just when you think the story's about to get awkward, there comes the plot twist. "Gather 6 stone jars," Jesus orders, like he's giving a recipe for grandmas everywhere to drool over. Each jar holds 20 or 30 gallons, an Olympic-size water jug, if you will. If you ever thought that a single trip to the well makes for a workout, can you imagine dragging those monstrosities up the hill? The servants, some with the optimism of a toddler, begin filling the jars to the brim with water. Picture it, a lineup of awkward teens trying to impress their friends with mediocre dance moves after feeling way too much peer pressure. "Is this really going to work?" one whispers, skeptical about the whole endeavor. And as the final drop splashes into each massive stone vessel, you can practically hear the silence before the miracle. A pause that could convince anyone to break out snacks or call for a second opinion from the nearest neighbor about goat cheese pie. Then Jesus, with a glint in his eye, says, "Now draw some out and take it to the head waiter." In that pivotal moment, the servants must have felt like stagehands during a magic show, sweat dripping down their brows. Imagine the doubt swirling around, like when you realize the cat is plotting its next move against the dog, but you're just too curious to look away. Will it work? Is this the worst cooking show in history? But lo and behold, the moment they deliver the goblet, the head waiter tastes the water-turned wine and declares, "Everyone brings out the best wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have drunk freely. But you have saved the best for last." A round of applause doesn't even do it justice. It's like discovering your favorite dessert in a hidden compartment of your fridge just when you thought the leftovers were all there was. So, my dear listener, the wedding feast continues with laughter and toast, turning into a night of joy and abundant blessings. Proof that divine intervention can turn even the driest moments into shimmering joy. Now, as we drift into the next segment of this enchanting journey, remember, even in the most mundane moments, miracles can unfold in the most joy-filled settings. You'll never know where the next sip of joy will take you until the jars are filled once more. Chapter 4. The Cleansing of the Temple. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we begin with something as invigorating as that one friend everyone has. Polarizing, occasionally a bit spicy, but ultimately full of life. The cleansing of the temple. Picture it. You're in Jerusalem, circa 30 AD, where the smells of spices mingle with the unmistakable aroma of livestock. Ah, yes, the olfactory delight that says, "Welcome to the holy marketplace. Buy some bacon, but probably not." Now, I know what you're thinking. How does one prepare for such an experience? Is there a dress code? Should you dress as a Pharisee? A hat with a little flair, perhaps? Or are you going for the low-key, just passing through look? And don't even get me started on signage. Temple, enter at your own risk, not responsible for lost coins. Before we dive in, I encourage you to dim the lights, turn on that fan like a Roman senator enjoying the afternoon breeze, and fold yourself into a comfortable position. Close your eyes and envision the chaos of market day. Can you feel the rush? Think about it. What would it be like to haul sheep and goats through dusty, crowded streets as you lament, "Why can't I find a good parking spot for my camel?" Also, why is Uncle Zechariah still haggling over doves? 2 doves for a shekel? You must be joking. Can you imagine the amount of noise? Clucks and bleats vying for your attention like a stadium full of overly excited fans. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the bustling heart of Jerusalem during the ministry of Jesus. Now, let's picture one of the more theatrical moments to unfold amidst all that holy fervor. As we wander through the colonnaded courts of the temple, your senses are bombarded. The clinking of coins dances in the air like a tap-dancing rabbi, while the cries of vendors echo against the stone walls like a bad rendition of your favorite childhood song. "Get your doves here! Perfect for sacrifices, 5 shekels each," they cry, while the faint whiff of burning incense weaves its way closer to your nose. And there, lo and behold, there's Jesus, the man himself, sweeping into the scene like a divine whirlwind. Only, instead of confetti, there's righteous indignation. His eyes narrow, and before you know it, you feel a sudden urge to take several steps back, as if a sudden gust of wind just whipped off the dust from your sandals. "Enough," Jesus declares, sounding like a passionate speaker at a protest for overpriced coffee. He begins to overturn the tables of the money changers, and, dear listener, it's chaos. Coins scatter like hapless marbles, bouncing off the flagstones. Doves flap and cry as if they've just experienced the shock of the century, probably a moment they won't soon forget. Imagine standing there, wine cup in hand, looking absolutely bemused. The panicking traders are doing their best to keep their balance as they attempt reason. "I was just doing my job. Don't throw my coins." But all you can think is that the sound of my investment crashing? "Don't you dare turn my father's house into a den of robbers," Jesus proclaims with that booming voice that would surely echo off the walls of any lecture hall. Kind of like that one friend who always has to have the final word during a disagreement. Now, can you picture the bewildered expressions on the faces of all those gathered? They're as confused as a cat in a dog show. Wait, we thought we were here for holy exchanges, not a one-man show that would put the local theater to shame. The temple is suddenly filled with startled doves, confused traders, and the reverberating echoes of divine authority. That's when you know something magnificent is unfolding. Imagine having a front row seat to the kind of spectacle that leaves everyone talking for centuries, or at least until the next big crisis arises. With the tables flipped and the money jingling around like a jingle bell band entirely offbeat, you hear one merchant mumble, "I can't just pick these up. You never know what the market price is going to be next week." Sweetheart, let me tell you, certain investments can be a fleeting thing, much like the last sip of good wine at a feast. People in the temple precincts are starting to think, wow, it's not just another day in Jerusalem anymore. And there's a sense of clarity amidst the chaos. Because Jesus isn't just making noise. He's making a statement as profound as a deep breath after holding yours for too long. As the dust settles, it's time to reflect on this moment, one of righteous anger and divine authority, laced with humor and a dash of absurdity. It's a moment that reminds you to question the status quo, to see beyond appearances, and to understand the true purpose of sacred spaces. Now, as we breathe in the energy of this transformative moment, remember that while it may seem that the world around you is filled with noise and hustle, it's often in those chaotic moments that the most profound truths are revealed. We'll dive into the next sacred moment in our journey, but for now, let's linger here, in the aura of divine authority and the joy of doves fluttering in confusion. Thank you for joining me on this calming adventure into history, dear listener. Now, let's drift into the next chapter full of miracles and awe, awaiting the next divine encounter. Chapter 5. A Midnight Meeting of Spirits. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we embark on a journey so clandestine, it makes your late-night snack raids feel like a Sunday school picnic. Picture this vivid rendezvous. Nicodemus, the respected Pharisee, cloaked in shadows and mystery, sneaking off to meet Jesus under the pale glow of a single lamp. Yes, it's a scene that whispers nighttime secrets and offers a pinch of mischievous excitement. Much like that time you accidentally sent a text to your boss instead of your best friend. Before we dive into this delightful encounter, I humbly invite you to like, subscribe, and comment, but only if you enjoy this soothing tale. Remember, it's all in the spirit of fun. Now, dim the lights, get cozy, and perhaps place a little fan nearby to mimic that refreshing evening breeze, or your own version of a personal chariot gliding through the ancient streets. Let's ponder for a moment. What must it be like to tiptoe through Jerusalem at the hour when most folks are snuggling into their cushy beds? Do you think people wondered, hey, is Nicodemus out past curfew again? And what about the dinner tables where the gossip mill churned? Can you believe Nicodemus went to see that rabble-rouser? Has he lost his marbles or merely his sheep? You just know there were those who would provide updates on Nicodemus's health, mentioning that he may be possessed by either enthusiasm or some hidden agenda. Imagine the hustle and bustle of the day turning into a night so quiet it almost felt sacred. You've stepped into Jerusalem, especially in this early Roman Empire moment. The air has that peculiar warmth of a city winding down, with only the chirping of crickets offering their 2 cents. Now visualize Nicodemus as he navigates the alleys like a stealthy ninja, perhaps feeling more like a rogue secret agent than a learned Pharisee. As you close your eyes, embrace the moment. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Jerusalem around 30 AD, the year when the text messages were replaced by whispers, and the nightlife was significantly less, well, electric. You can almost taste the subtle flavor of sandalwood and spices lingering in the air. Now let's dive into this clandestine meeting. The lamp flickers softly on the rough wooden table, casting shadows that mimic the uncertainty in Nicodemus's heart. Sitting beside Jesus, he looks as if he just heard his mother announce that instead of dessert, there's only more homework. The profound urgency of the moment hangs thick, each whispered word almost palpable. "Rabbi," Nicodemus murmurs, his voice low as a midnight breeze, "we know you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the miraculous signs you are doing if God were not with him." He's buttering up Jesus like a warm biscuit, so smooth yet so evidently nervous. Imagine Jesus' smirk as he replies, "Very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again." At this point, Nicodemus is likely doing mental gymnastics, trying to wrap his head around this concept. Born again? How does one go back into their mother's womb? Should we add a how-to guide for that in the Torah? You can practically sense the gears grinding in his head, like a farm team figuring out how to win a game with just 3 players. "How can this be?" Nicodemus asks, nearly stammering, imagining himself in a bizarre competition where he must win the Back to the Womb challenge. Here, the lamp flickers, making it feel as though the very universe is holding its breath. Jesus, with the calming authority only a true teacher can muster, continues, "You should not be surprised at my saying, 'You must be born again.' The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit." Now, complex as it seems, this concept of being born of the Spirit gives Nicodemus flashbacks of every late-night philosophical debate he had with his friends after 3 cups of too strong wine. It's all a bit head-spinning. Wait, so you mean I need to channel my inner wind? As if I should breathe into a paper bag for a real spirit journey? Where's my cheat sheet? The conversation flows into the deep realms of faith and understanding, the dance between flesh and spirit woven beneath a tapestry of divine mystery, all while cars don't exist to whisk them away, and the only wheels around are probably on a cart carrying some delicious bread. So, dear listener, as the hour grows late and the shadows lengthen, imagine Nicodemus leaving that secret meeting with thoughts swirling in his mind like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. The night air wraps around him, comforting yet challenging. He's embarking on a journey that's no less than a pathway to his very soul. Perhaps he thinks, what have I signed myself up for? And do I get a special badge when I figure it all out? And yet, as he moves from the light of the lamp into the dark streets, there lies, nestled within him, the first glimmer of hope, the prospect of a new understanding, much like finding that last slice of cake hidden in the back of the fridge. Now, as we settle into the profound and subtle energies of this divine encounter, allow the warmth of it all to envelop your heart and guide you gently into slumber, where the Spirit intertwines with your dreams, fostering hope and profound connection. Thank you for journeying alongside me through the moonlit streets of Jerusalem. May the whispers of this tale stay with you till we meet again, guiding you toward sweet dreams and restful nights.
Chapter 6. The Thirst-Quenching Encounter. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your hearts by the Lord. Get cozy as we meander through the sun-baked streets of ancient Samaria, where the only thing hotter than the sun is the fierce debate over the best sheep in town. You see, water wasn't just a drink in those days. It was the lifeblood of the community, quite like Wi-Fi is today. Imagine trying to scroll through your feed with no bars, my friend. Before we plunge deeply into our tale, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, but only if you truly enjoy what's unfolding. Consider it your friendly, neighborly nudge, like that time you tried to convince your pal to join that pottery class, knowing full well it involved no actual throwing of pots, just a lot of appreciating and meditating. Now, let's dim the lights, maybe crack a window to let in that gentle evening breeze, and settle in, shall we? As you prepare, let's ponder a few quirky thoughts about our main characters. What must it be like for a woman drawing water in the hottest part of the day? Do you think she daydreams about running her own vineyard? Or maybe wishes the buckets ran on batteries? And what about Jesus? Did he have a go-to catchphrase when he turned water into wine? This vintage is divine. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 30 AD Samaria. The roads are dusty, the air is thick, and rumor has it, the top it girl around here is known for her dazzling water jar collection. With sandal-worn feet and a thirst greater than a toddler after playtime, you find yourself at Jacob's well. As the sun blares down, radiating heat that could probably cook an egg on a rock, though personally I'd rather not try that out, you spot a solitary figure, covered in the dust of travel, sitting casually by the well. Yes, it's Jesus. In his classic style, he looks as if he just stepped off a heavenly cloud with a hint of mischief in his eyes, like he knows something you don't. Now picture this. You're parched. You twist the lid off your imaginary water bottle only to find it's filled with sand. The irony is thicker than the air. As the sun persists with its relentless glare, you'll indulge in eavesdropping on this divine encounter. Jesus glances your way. Maybe he detects your dryness too, and requests, "Will you give me a drink?" Oh, and here's the twist.
This isn't just any ordinary drink request. You know, it's like asking for a latte at a gas station. The Samaritan woman casts a wary glance at him. Wait a minute. You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan. Isn't that like mixing oil and water? Or like dunking a donut in spaghetti? Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of it all. Picture the woman. Her friends would probably say her social circles are as complicated as an unmarked treasure map. But here's Jesus, breaking all the norms while she stands there holding her water jar as if it might suddenly sprout legs and run away. As you listen in, the words of Jesus cut through the heat. Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Is it just me, or does that sound like a clever advertisement for the first ever bottled water? He's practically offering a free trial of divine hydration. The woman, her curiosity piqued, responds, "Sir, give me this water so I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." It's like begging the barista for the secret menu. As she leans closer, you can almost hear the laughter in the air, textured with the spice of the moment. Jesus, with a twinkle in his eye, replies in a way that would make anyone's mind spin. "Go, call your husband and come back." Quite the plot twist, right? Well, she fidgets, as if holding on to a sticky caramel when all she wanted was a clean slate. "I have no husband." Oh, the gall. A perfect comedic timing. As if he's just walked into the punchline. But Jesus nods knowingly because, well, he's Jesus. And he's got a knack for knowing everything, including how many snacks he could fit in a tunic. Though I must say, he may have had to bend the limits just a touch. "You've had 5, he declares, and suddenly the air is charged with an electric awkwardness. It's the kind you feel when someone brings up that one Christmas party where Uncle Bob tried to impress the relatives with his stand-up routine about the neighbor's cat, and you really wish you could go back in time to save yourself from the cringe. And yet, somehow, amid that awkwardness, there's something stirring, like the quiet resolve that ignites before a storm. This is a microcosm of connection, where taboo discussions meld into a flowing river of understanding. You might even say this whole odd dialogue is like a master class in the art of conversation, where honest questions flow like sweet nectar on a hot day. As you drift deeper into this scene, the laughter hangs like the scent of jasmine in the evening air. Jesus continues, "The time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. For true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." Just then, you can't help but imagine how this would translate to a modern coffee shop encounter. "Hey, I'm going to order a latte, but make sure the beans are ethically sourced and lovingly whispered to by a wise barista." The woman, captivated now, realizes she's in the presence of something extraordinary. This is no typical well visit. This is a divine meet-cute. As their exchange deepens, the surface transforms into a whirlpool of conversations about life, faith, and living water. Not the kind with a label from the grocery store, but something so much more potent. And as the sun begins its lazy descent, you feel something shift within you, as if you too might need a drink, not just of water, but of wisdom steeped in richness that comes only from above. In this moment, dear listener, as we reflect on the thirsts we carry, imagine this encounter igniting within you the kind of joy that bubbles, much like the last drops of soda left in an empty glass. Lean back, close your eyes, and let the warmth of this story enfold you like a soft blanket, lulling you into a peaceful slumber infused with hope and connection. As we leave this heartwarming scene, know that whatever your thirst may be, spiritual or otherwise, there's a well of comfort waiting for you, overflowing like a friendly neighbor's sugary sweet tea. Thank you for wandering through this tale with me, and may your dreams be as fulfilling as a fresh jar of water on a hot day. Until next time, Sleep well and stay hydrated.
Chapter 7. The Nobleman's Desperate Plea. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Imagine a time when the Mediterranean sun blazed down like your neighbor's loud barbecue at a family gathering, intense, unapologetic, and emitting that unmistakable aroma of charred meat wafting through the air. Yes, tonight we're diving into the early Roman Empire, when sandals were the height of fashion, and a well-timed sneeze could spark a family feud lasting generations. Before we embark on our story of miraculous wonder, I kindly nudge you to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Only if you truly enjoy what's unfolding, of course. Think of it like leaving a tip for a dinner that absolutely blew your mind, minus the messy check to figure out who ordered the extra desserts. Now, let's dim the lights, perhaps crack a window to let in that soothing evening breeze, and make sure you're comfy, like a cat sprawled out on its favorite sunny windowsill, utterly unbothered. As you settle, let your mind wander through the dusty streets of Capernaum, where noblemen in lavish robes argue over who has the juiciest gossip. Did you hear? Marcus's goat cheated at the races. But hold on, what about our rich nobleman? Did he have indecisive servants? Or perhaps a wife who had a tendency to misplace her tiaras? How many times did he have to talk himself into skipping dessert to keep his waistline in check? And did he ever struggle with the age-old dilemma? To buy that extravagant oil lamp or invest in a new courtyard fountain? Ah, the struggles of high society. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD, where the sun shines on marble and earth alike. The streets are alive with the hustle and bustle of lively merchants hawking spices that probably smell 10 times better than your local grocery store's aisle 9. As you stroll, the air thick with fresh bread and the occasional whiff of, well, let's not talk about what happens in the latrines, shall we? Now, let's talk about our nobleman, shall we? Standing there under a vast, cloudless sky, he looks more anxious than a goat in a lion's den. His son is gravely ill, and every moment that ticks by feels heavier than an elephant on a seesaw. He's heard whispers that Jesus, yes, that Jesus, is nearby, and courageously decides to take a gamble with hope. "Excuse me, you!" he shouts across the marketplace, probably alarming more than a few pigeons. "Could you kindly point me to that miracle worker? You know, the guy who's all the buzz?" The gaze of commoners twists in disbelief. "Really? You, nobleman? Would you take a moment for plebeian advice?" Yet he doesn't care. Desperation has a way of clearing the throat and deleting social decorum. With resolve sharper than a new kitchen knife, he embraces his aging limbs and sets off to find Jesus. Just picture this grand journey. An elegant guy in flashy robes weaving through dirt streets, like he's jumping from one Instagram photo op to the next. His sandals clash rhythmically with the dry earth, a beat to the melody of his frantic heart. Finally, he spots Jesus. But wait, there's a catch. Jesus is a little way off, like when your favorite bakery closes just 5 minutes before you get there. It's the kind of distance that would make anyone second-guess their life choices. "Oh, glorious miracle worker," he pleads, "your fame precedes you. My son is at death's door. If only you could come to my house." Jesus turns, looking up from his figurative plate of freshly caught fish, with an expression somewhere between patience and the hint of wisdom, like that favorite teacher from high school who always seemed to know the answer to every question. "Go back," he says with a voice that travels the distance like a gentle breeze. "Your son will be healed. Your faith has saved him." Can you imagine the nobleman's thoughts whirring? Wait, no miracle potions? No intricate rituals? Just trust and a swift return? A rush of both fear and excitement coursing through him, he turns back towards his estate. As he walks, it's almost as if a weight has been lifted. His sandals feel lighter. He could practically run a marathon. Now here's where it gets interesting. Picture him bursting into his home, breathless but hopeful, ready to embrace the miracle he just accepted on faith. And then, oh dear,
he encounters a servant panting at the door. "Sir, I have news." His heart races. Is it good? Bad? Did the cat get stuck in the courtyard fountain again? What is it? Tell me. Your son, he's better. A miracle unfolding in real time, kind of like when you pour soda over ice and it bubbles up like a volcano of yummy fizz. Better? How? When? Our nobleman is practically floating. Just this very hour. Jesus said he would be healed, and he is. Can you imagine that moment? Almost like discovering that the last piece of chocolate cake isn't actually gone. It's just been hiding behind the bananas. The nobleman's heart swells in gratitude. Belief, like a flickering candle, ignites to a roaring flame. And so, dear listener, picture him realizing that distance doesn't diminish faith, and that a spoken word can echo through time and space, bridging the gap between despair and hope. As he reflects on this journey and miracle, his family is united once more, stronger than ever. Now that's a bedtime tale to warm the heart, isn't it? So as we conclude this chapter of divine interaction and recovery, let the warmth of this story envelop you. May it fill your heart with hope, igniting a restful slumber as sweet as honey on warm bread. Until next time, may your own journeys be filled with faith, miracles, and perhaps a bit of laughter. Just leave the goats out of it. Sleep well, dear listener.
Chapter 8. The Boy with a Lunch. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. If you've ever faced a dilemma that felt bigger than choosing the right avocado at the supermarket, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're traveling back to a sunny day on a grassy hillside in the early Roman Empire, a time when goats were the designated livestock for all your takeout needs, and half of the local kids could probably juggle more than they could speak. Have you ever wondered how you might fare in a crowd, waiting impatiently for a charismatic teacher? Would you bask in the sun like that one friend who always claims they love the outdoors, all while secretly plotting to retreat indoors at the first sign of a mosquito? Or perhaps you'd be the one trying to sneak a peek at that suspiciously large basket of bread resting conveniently under the prodigious noses of the disciples. So, let's set our minds right. Dim the lights, maybe light a candle to conjure the spirit of ancient evenings, and settle into your most comfortable position, like a pancake on a Sunday brunch plate. And come real close now. Say, do you think those crowds back then fought over front row seats? Was it more of a spiritual cuddle puddle? Or were they elbowing their way through, yearning for a chance at the coveted apostle autograph? Allegedly, that doesn't exist, even though it should. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 30 AD. You find yourself on a grassy hillside near Galilee. The Mediterranean air carries the salty tang of the sea, mixed with the sweet scent of wild herbs. Kind of like a nature-inspired herbal tea for your soul, steeping under the sun. You spot a crowd, and oh, what a spectacle. There's a buzz in the air, almost like a conversation about who left their laundry in the communal washer too long. You can hear the whispers of excitement. They are waiting eagerly for a teaching from Jesus, a man whose stories flowed like your grandma's best soup, comforting and sometimes pleasantly surprising. Children giggle and dash about, likely arguing over whose turn it is to steal the last fig from that lunch basket, the one that just might end in tears. Now, you might expect a hefty spread of food, a banquet fit for a Roman emperor, perhaps. But as the crowd settles, a few curious whispers arise. Did you bring a feast? And, I hope Martha packed extra olives. Imagine the collective stomach growl as everyone scans the hillside for bounty. Only 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish are found tucked away, like that forgotten snack you swear you put in the cupboard just yesterday. But here it comes, dear friend. A boy, no more than 12, with a heart that could fill the horizon, steps forward. Could it be that he's the tiniest hero of our tale? Clutching a modest lunch that might barely feed a family of squirrels, he raises it to the disciples. It's a gesture of simple faith, as if.
He's saying, "Here, I believe you can turn this into a 3-course meal for thousands, potentially with dessert too, if we're lucky. Can you picture the look on the disciples' faces when he offers his humble meal? It's like when someone shows up at the potluck with an empty plate, claiming they forgot the baked beans. What do you expect us to do with this, kid? Muffin tops only? They exchange glances that say everything and nothing all at once, because seriously, who brings barely anything to a miraculous idea fest? But oh, how the plot thickens. Jesus, God bless him, takes the loaves and fish. Imagine the scene as he lifts them, almost like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat, with the sincerity of a barista making your morning espresso, artful, magical, calm. With a gentle voice, he offers a prayer, and perhaps there's an audible gasp in the crowd. Now, in a miraculous twist, the loaves and fish begin to multiply. It's like an episode of a cooking show gone fabulously out of control. Think about it. You came with a snack and left with enough food to create your version of a food truck, selling everything from fish tacos to caramel-drenched loaves. A crowd that once expected crumbs now feasts like kings and queens, laughter bubbling up like the soda you forgot to shake before serving. Those gathered marvel, sharing the miracle, tossing pieces of fish and bread like confetti at a summer wedding, all while some kid, let's call him Billy, wondered if he could trade a fish piece for an extra loaf. How community spirit flows like melted cheese over nachos in a food-laden, joyful night, doesn't it? And now as the food spreads and laughter fills the air, countless bellies are satisfied. It's a banquet where love is on the menu, and you've just become privy to a moment that encapsulates the beauty of faith, generosity, and perhaps a bit of divine humor. Dear listener, let the peace from this story weave through your mind like a gentle lullaby. Whether you're dreaming of a hillside or preparing for tomorrow's breakfast, remember that even the smallest offerings can create waves of abundance. So as you drift into slumber, carry this tale with you, that miracles often arrive wearing the most unassuming faces, like a boy with a few fish and loaves ready to share. As you prepare to doze off, may your thoughts be filled with the comfort of knowing you are part of a much larger tapestry of faith and connection. Sleep soundly, letting every worry float away like a leaf on tranquil water. After all, who wouldn't feel a little lighter knowing that miracles abound? Sweet dreams await you, dear listener.
Chapter 9. The Abundant Feast. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Ever pondered the question, how did they manage to create a buffet feast with just a few snacks? You're in for a treat, or should I say, a miracle. Tonight we travel back in time to a sunny day on a hillside during the early Roman Empire, a time when the local goats had more personality than some of the townsfolk, and kids were too busy arguing over the last fig to worry about screen time. How do you think you would fare in a throng, mixing with a crowd so excited that it resembled a group of kids at a summer carnival? Would you be the one stretching your neck to spot the head of the crowd, or the one trying to sneak a nibble from the last piece of bread being handed around? Picture it, a gathering of thousands, as organized as a high school dance, with all its awkwardness and enchantment. So, dim the lights, dear friend. Perhaps throw on a light shawl to coax in that cozy feeling, and nestle into your favorite spot like a cat that's found the sunniest windowsill. Now consider this. What would your first meal be after a long day under the sun? Would you race to grab the freshest figs, or would your sights be set on a basket of bread, hoping no one elbowed you in the ribs for the last piece? Ah, the chaos of feasting after a long day's journey. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD. Yes, that's right, no smartphones here. You find yourself on a sprawling, grassy hillside near Galilee, with the sun warming your face and the air filled with the sweet fragrance of wild herbs. Imagine it as a cleansing blend of thyme and rosemary. The crowd is buzzing with anticipation, like a group of caffeine-infused squirrels who just spotted an acorn. In every direction, you see a sea of faces eager for the remarkable teaching of Jesus. Children dart about,
and you can hear the occasional giggle, like the unmistakable sound of someone trying to hide a bad haircut. Now, settle in and observe the scene. There's a collective murmur among the crowd. Did someone yell, "Who brought snacks?" Or, "Did you save any for me?" You can almost feel those stomachs grumbling, imagining the wild cravings for olives and figs, especially after standing in the sun. But as folks settle down, their eyes drift about, searching for the famed picnic spreading. Will it be a mountain of grilled fish and a loaf bounty? Or just those sad, lonely barley loaves? And then suddenly, a spark of hope emerges from the crowd. A boy, no taller than a shepherd's staff, comes forward, clutching his modest lunch. It's nothing more than 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish, a scant offering, properly defying the law of crowd mathematics. Less food means more hangry faces. Curiously, he takes a step closer, as if saying, "Hey, I think we could work with this." The disciples scramble, exchanging glances filled with apprehension, like when you realize you've only got a couple of chips left in a communal bowl during game night. What do we do, guys? It's a mix of incredulity and confusion, a silent conversation of sighs that seems to echo through the rumbles of hungry bellies. Then, with the flair of a magician, Jesus takes the loaves and fish. Imagine the anticipation, a sense of camaraderie radiating through the crowd as he lifts the lunch and says a prayer. It's akin to handing a kindly marionette its strings back, igniting laughter and applause. With a simple gesture, he begins to break the bread. It's the instant where every face becomes captivated. Is this bread going to keep multiplying? Are we in for a surprise? And then, lo and behold, the bread begins to multiply. It's as if you've stepped into a magical kitchen where leftovers from last week become gourmet specialties overnight. Take that, meal prep. The baskets begin to brim, an overflowing bounty never seen before, like a fountain of comfort food. The crowd roars with delight as laughter rings through the air, the kind of joyous noise reminiscent of a bustling family reunion. Everyone is merrily sharing. Loaves and fish are flying about like confetti at a toddler's birthday party. Children are trading fish pieces for loaves like they're bargaining with a prize at a carnival. "I'll give you this if you share half of that." The energy is infectious. Nothing fills the air quite like community and good food. An ecstatic revelry unfolds before your eyes. The nourishment extends far beyond the body, lifting spirits too. Now, savor this moment. You've just been part of the biggest potluck Galilee has ever seen, where every mouth is filled and every heart overflows in gratitude. Even kiddies who'd threatened to toss tantrums over pilfered figs are now happily munching away, faces smudged with crumbs and laughter. As evening descends, you notice there are 12 baskets full of leftover fragments, more than enough food for anyone to heal their hangry hearts. How wild it must be to think just a handful transformed an ordinary lunch into an extraordinary miracle. Sleep now, dear listener, and remember this evening that faith can manifest abundance in the most surprising of ways, and often in the most unexpected vessels. A humble boy with a fantastically simple lunch just became the hero of our tale. Drift gently into dreams, knowing that miracles often arrive in the most unassuming packages, just like a good meal shared among friends. Good night.
Chapter 10. The Storm's Embrace. Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we embark on a journey that's as tumultuous as a toddler during nap time. The stormy seas of Galilee in the early Roman Empire. Imagine a place where chariots whiz by at breakneck speed, and yet no one seems to have learned how to swim. Well, not very well at least. Tonight, you'll witness a scene where good old-fashioned faith meets the whims of Mother Nature. Picture this. Would you rather be caught in a deluge with nothing but an umbrella that resembles a sad potato sack, or dancing in the rain with your favorite song stuck in your head? Perhaps you're the type who, faced with a looming storm, confidently steps out in sandals and a questionable decision to wear linen. So grab your favorite blanket, cozy up, and let the tension melt away. Or is that just the stress of everyday life? Who knows? For the next few moments, you'll be swept away in a tale that's not only drenched in water, but also sprinkled with dazzling moments of hope and hilarity amidst despair. And with that, congratulations. You've just woken up in 30 AD, where sandals are the height of fashion, and your friends are eagerly awaiting a trip across a windswept lake. You find yourself nestled inside a boat with no Wi-Fi, and the only thing connecting you with the world is a curious fisherman named Simon, who, believe it or not, has somehow managed to lose his hat in the midst of chaos. Now, let's talk about sailing. Bad idea. In a boat barely long enough to fit a lunchbox, you and the disciples, who are, as it turns out, not great sailors, are heading out onto the Sea of Galilee. The sky has darkened ominously, like a teenager forced to talk to their parents about their future. Suddenly, the wind picks up, howling like it's auditioning for a lead role in a horror film. Waves crash against the sides of your tiny vessel, making your companions squeal and clutch the edges as if they were trying to hug a giant cat. You glance around. The disciples are no longer the spirited crew you knew. They're now a collection of wide eyes and flailing arms, resembling a bunch of startled chickens trying to take flight. The boat jolts violently from side to side, making you wonder if that bread you had earlier was a wise choice. You feel a little queasy, though it's not the wind that gets to you, but the imminent sensation of losing your lunch. You can't help but think, wouldn't it be just grand if Jesus showed up right about now? And just when panic begins to settle in, you look up. There, emerging through the crashing waves like an unexpected plot twist in a rom-com, is Jesus himself. He's walking on the water as if he's just taking a casual stroll through the park, perhaps pausing to greet a few seagulls along the way. You can't help but mutter under your breath, "Must be a good pair of sandals." Now, imagine the scene from your perspective. While you're grappling with what might be an early history of seasickness, there's Jesus, strolling along like it's a Sunday morning walk to the market. You almost expect him to wave goodbye to the fish, who seem utterly confused by this turn of events. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's just Jesus out for a jaunt, you think, chuckling lightly. Meanwhile, the disciples are screaming, and despite the boundless winds and rising waters, they're more focused on the fact that their leader is performing a miracle right before their eyes. And not just any miracle, but defying the laws of physics. The one thing they haven't been able to figure out in all their years of learning from him. "Take heart, it is I. Don't be afraid," Jesus calls out, each word making its way to you like an invitation to a lavish banquet, one where the main course is undeniably divine. Imagine trying to comprehend the mix of fear, confusion, and awe swirling inside you. Your instincts scream to get a life jacket. However, your curiosity to witness this marvel overwhelms your rational mind. "I didn't sign up for this when I decided to follow," you want to shout. But instead, you find yourself frozen in place, watching as he draws nearer to your shaken boat. What's next? Walking on the clouds? You chuckle nervously to yourself, blowing away the cringe-inducing thoughts of capsizing. And then, adding a dash of drama to the already surreal situation, Peter, the one with ambitions larger than his fishing net, decides it's a perfect moment to take a bold leap. He steps out onto the water, much like you might attempt to hop from one wobbly table to another while balancing a glass of sweet tea. You can barely breathe. The water beneath him holds, and there's a moment of sheer disbelief, like waiting for a punchline that never comes. But oh, how quickly the winds can change, just like the weather. One second, he's walking. The next, he's frightened, sinking like an anchor. And there you are, watching with thoughts racing. Is this my moment to save the day? Should I throw him a life vest? Or better yet, a donut? As his cries for help reach your ears, you can almost hear the cosmic laughter that echoes across the waves. Just as you're about to leap into action, or into the water, Jesus extends his hand, pulling Peter up with a grace that only the Son of God could muster.
With incredible warmth, Jesus reassures him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" A valid question indeed for anyone who's faced with walking on water in the midst of a storm. And you think, I might need something stronger in my drink tonight. Picture this moment settling over you, a reassurance against life's tumultuous tides. As you nestle down further into your cozy spot, allow the gentle murmurs of faith to wrap around you, and let those memories of sea-splitting miracles guide you into restful slumber. Sleep now, dear listener.
Remember, from the crucible of storms, joyful miracles can arise, just like an unexpected visitor who knows the way to calm our deepest anxieties. While tomorrow may bring its own tumult, it's the miraculous moments of faith that light the way in the darkest of nights. Good night. Chapter 11. The Divine Bread Dilemma. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we venture into a setting as puzzling as a lactose-intolerant cow at a cheese festival. The bustling crowds of Jerusalem during the ministry of Jesus, back in that delightful time of 30 AD. Those were the days when beards were mandatory and sandals were considered high fashion, but only if they matched your tunic. Imagine yourself in a world where every street corner could serve as a stage for the latest miracle, and you could fit a small flock of sheep in your pocket without much fuss, if only the local goats would cooperate. You'll soon find yourself surrounded by people debating the hottest topic of the day. Is Jesus really the bread of life? And what does that even mean? But before the gourmet bread-making tips start flowing, let me gently nudge you to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this journey. No pressure. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for a mild breeze, and snuggle into your most comfy blanket. As we glide into the early Roman Empire, have you ever wondered what it was like to be a commoner back then? Did they complain when the bread was stale? Were crowds more of a "let's gather for some gossip" kind of thing, or more "let's have a serious debate about bread"? Did Jesus have to deal with people on their phones during sermons? Or were shushing and grumbling the main forms of social interaction? Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 30 AD, where the only scrolling is the parchment scrolls being read aloud in the synagogue, and the closest thing to a smartphone is a particularly well-groomed goat. Now, let's talk about the synagogue. Picture it as a community gathering spot, filled with all the enticing aromas of yesterday's baked goods, mixed with the underlying scent of, "What's that?" from the neighbors' unkempt goats. It's a building buzzing with energy, like a coffee shop before everyone's had their coffee. The wooden benches could give a modern-day recliner a run for its money in terms of comfort. Just kidding. If you find one that doesn't squeak or pinch your back, consider it a miracle. As you sit, the air is filled with that delicious blend of incense and hope, mingling with murmurs of confusion about who this Jesus fellow really is. Bread of life? Did he say he's made of bread? Someone whispers incredulously, followed by a couple of chuckles, as if debating whether or not to invite Jesus over for dinner. Now, picture it. Jesus stands before the congregation, his presence as calming as a gentle riverbank after a light rainfall. He declares, "I am the bread of life that came down from heaven." The listeners exchange looks filled with sheer bewilderment. You can almost hear the collective thought bubble. Wait, does that mean he's going to serve lunch? There's a lively debate that begins to percolate in the air, like that morning coffee you didn't quite get to enjoy. Rumors swirling faster than an excited cat at the sound of a can opening. "Don't you know his father Joseph?" shouts one voice from the back. "He's just a carpenter, right? What does he know about bread baking?" And out of nowhere, a little old lady with spectacles perched delicately at the end of her nose interjects, "Listen, dearies, if he's indeed the bread of life, have we all been missing the gluten-free option?" Meanwhile, someone else gasps dramatically, "Is he saying he wants us to eat him?" Cue the eye rolls and the dramatic hand-waving
as a young man frantically tries to calm the crowd. "Don't panic, folks. I mean, what's next? A wine tasting of his blood?" The murmurs grow louder, resembling a bustling marketplace where no one can agree on whether or not olives are superior to figs. One by one, more people join in. Some are intrigued, others alarmed. "What's the deal with this living bread? Is there a bakery involved?" one man asks, scratching his head like a horse caught in a particularly vibrant itch. Yet amidst this swirling confusion is the sacred essence of faith, a mysterious force binding the crowd together, even when they're bumping their heads against the metaphoric heavenly table of theology and bread-based analogies. You lean in closer, hoping to catch the hidden wisdom in the air, a secret recipe for understanding that might make sense of all these absurdities. Jesus wipes a little sweat from his brow, eyes twinkling like the stars in a clear night sky, waiting patiently as the debate echoes around him like an endless loop on bad radio. But just as you start wondering if someone should bring out a snack to soothe the crowd, Jesus continues, "Those who come to me will never go hungry, and those who believe in me will never be thirsty." A hushed awe now blankets the crowd as everyone processes the significance of his words, like waiting for the last slice of pizza at a party. Their faces transform from confusion to wonder, and you realize that maybe, just maybe, this whole bread fiasco isn't about carbs after all. As the shadows lengthen around the synagogue, the air thickens with anticipation, like that moment just before a curtain rises. It dawns on you that this bread business is not just about loaves and fishes, but rather an invitation to something so much larger than simple sustenance. It's nourishment for the soul, a promise of hope wrapped up in a mystery. So breathe in this warm air of possibility, dear listener. Remember that even amidst the quirkiest debates, divinity often serves our deepest cravings for love, understanding, and connection. Now, drift softly into dreams, and let the bread of life fill your heart, for tomorrow brings new possibilities wrapped in divine purpose. Good night. Chapter 12. The Feast of Living Water. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we dive deep into something more refreshing than a mid-afternoon nap on a summer day. The vibrant Feast of Tabernacles in 30 AD, Jerusalem, a city as bright as a newly polished brass bell, and bustling with more excitement than a cat who just spotted a laser pointer. Now imagine yourself amid throngs of people, where the aromas of roasted lamb mingle freely with the sweet scent of date honey and herbs. You're in the midst of a festival where you could get lost, just trying to decide whether to try the dates or the figs. Though, if you're anything like me, the fig options might raise more questions than answers. Is that a ripe fig or a rogue pumpkin? Who knows? Before we immerse ourselves in this ancient celebration, may I gently inquire you to like, subscribe, and perhaps leave a comment. Only if you genuinely enjoy this whimsical journey. No undue pressure, of course. Now, dim those lights, turn on your fan for a gentle breeze, and snuggle into your favorite blanket. Have you ever pondered the everyday life of a commoner in Jerusalem during this festive time? Did people complain about the lines as if they were waiting for a public restroom at a concert? Were families more likely to argue over the best place to sit, or who got the last piece of challah bread during the feast? And please, were there ancient wristwatches, or did they just use sundials and hope for the best? Congratulations! You've just awakened in 30 AD, a time when the only scrolling anyone did was through the weekly market offerings while trying to dodge the occasional goat. And guess what? You're at the Feast of Tabernacles, where people make huts full of the finest palm leaves and branches, as if they were trying to impress everyone at the Pinterest craft fair. Let's set the scene, shall we? The sun hangs lazily in the orange-tinted sky, oblivious to the buzz below.
The temple courts are alive with laughter and conversations, mixing like a well-stirred pot of stew. The sounds of joyful voices dancing and mingling with the rhythmic beat of drums. It's a cacophony, but one that sings of celebration and community. Now, there you are, nestled at the edge of the temple courts, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. The vibrant hues of cloth and foliage sway gently as people move, and you can see Jesus rising, gathering attention like a bee to honey. He stands there surrounded by a group of curious followers who look more intrigued than a cat in front of a mirror. "Hey everyone," Jesus proclaims, his voice cutting through the chatter like a sharp knife through butter. "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink." You can practically hear the record scratch in the air as a chorus of heads turns in unison, looking at each other as if to say, "Did he really just say that?" Imagine that moment. The anticipation, hanging like ripe grapes on the vine. Wait a minute, the crowd seems to whisper to one another. Is this guy offering the best lemonade in town? Eyes widen, eyebrows raise, and a loud gasp ripples through the gathering like a sudden wind. They look more confused than a goat in a yoga class. The questions start flying faster than freshly tossed pita bread. "Does this mean he's a walking water fountain?" shouts a man, brandishing a stubborn bunch of grapes, as if trying to barter knowledge. "What do you think he means by living water?" another voice asks, the skepticism dripping like honey on a warm toast. "So, is he suggesting we should pack our bags for a modish spa retreat at the Southern Sea?" someone chimed in, laughter bubbling as they pictured Jesus in a robe with a towel draped over his shoulder, ready for a day of relaxation and skin care. Meanwhile, a wise old sage with a beard as tangled as a fishing line interrupts the banter. "Fools, can you not see? He speaks of the Spirit. The living water is the essence of faith." Now everybody's heads swivel back to Jesus, who notices the curiosity amidst the skepticism. With a twinkle in his eye that suggests he's just waiting for the next punchline, he continues, "Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." It's a promise that floats in the air like the scent of freshly baked bread wafting around, inviting and nourishing. Suddenly, it all begins to click in the crowd, like pieces of an ancient puzzle falling into place. "So, what's the deal? Does this mean I can skip my morning coffee?" one person jokes, eliciting a round of chuckles that echoes across the temple courts. The laughter fades into contemplative murmurs as the crowd begins to digest this profound message. This is about more than just thirst, you realize, as you lean in closer, the sweet smell of fruit and the warmth of camaraderie enveloping you. It's an invitation to refreshment, a soul-quenching revelation wrapped in divine purpose. As the sun sets lower, casting soft rays of golden light that dance like fireflies, you feel a growing sense of unity and hope blooming among the people. In the midst of the revelry, you sense that they are all just souls, seeking the same thing, a sip of that living water that can quench the deepest thirst. So, dear listener, let this thought flow through you as you drift into dreams. The feast may end, but the essence of this divine moment lingers on, reminding you that even amidst uncertainty, the call to refreshment and hope is always there, waiting for you to take a drink from the fount of grace. Sleep well, and may your heart be filled with peace. Chapter 13, The Accuser's Dilemma. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we venture into a scene thicker with tension than your Aunt Martha's holiday fruitcake. A moment charged with accusation, redemption, and the delightful temperament of divine wisdom. Imagine yourself in the bustling streets of Jerusalem, circa 30 AD, where debates are as common as pigeons attempting to steal your lunch. The sun hangs high, casting long shadows, almost like it's trying to avoid the drama unfolding below. But what's this? A ruckus, louder than a goat in a bath, catches your ear. As you draw near, your curiosity piques. Is someone giving a TED Talk on why figs are overrated?
Or maybe a spirited argument over whose turn it is to feed the temple cats. The laughter you hear feels more like a nervous chuckle, and you find yourself thinking, was that a sock slide I just witnessed? Surely the real entertainment is about to hit. Before you get too comfortable, may I ask you to like, subscribe, and perhaps comment? Only if you find this delightful, of course. So, grab your favorite blanket, dim those lights, and let's settle in for what promises to be a very peculiar evening. In this lively yet precarious scene, let's entertain a few ridiculous questions. What on earth is the decor like at a temple in this scandalous time? Do people throw in faux gilded accents or stick with a more rustic, I just bought this from the market aesthetic? Was there a community bulletin board where people posted announcements like, "Lost, one very grumpy goat named Bob"? Really, what is the ancient version of scrolling through social media? Congratulations, you've just woken up, smack dab, in the middle of a drama more intense than your neighbor's attempts to fix a roof leak during a thunderstorm. Now, in the center of the crowd stands a woman, looking as bewildered as someone trying to fit a square peg into a round hole while blindfolded. She appears more fragile than a flower in a hailstorm, surrounded by a group of religious leaders. Think of them as your least favorite family members arguing over a Thanksgiving turkey. Caught in the very act of adultery, they announce, their fingers pointing like arrows, aimed squarely at her. It's as if they're pitching the ultimate divine dilemma to the crowd. In an era where judgment flows faster than the wine at a wedding, this moment could either end in chaos or, perhaps, in the unexpected brilliance that seems to follow the man you hear whispers about in hushed tones and exaggerated tales. You know him as Jesus. Imagine the murmurs cascading through the crowd. You can almost hear the varied opinions bouncing around, like a game of ancient ping pong. What's he going to do? Is she really guilty? And of course, the delightful, "Do you think anyone will bring snacks while we wait?" And then, amidst the brewing drama, Jesus positions himself in the sand as though he were rehearsing for some divine interpretive dance. Kneeling, he begins to write in the dust with his finger, casually, as if doodling while waiting for a friend who's running late to brunch. Because who wouldn't want to show off their calligraphy skills during a perilous moment? This is not your typical get-out-of-jail-free moment. Rather, it feels like a scene from a gripping drama where the lead character writes their own fate. As the suffocating tension thickens, you can sense the energy crackle. The crowd's anticipation is palpable. What on earth is he writing? Someone whispers aloud, causing others to lean in as if the suspense is about to combust like a tea kettle past its simmering point. Can you just imagine all the speculation? Perhaps the Pharisees play a game of who guesses the most absurd answer. With a twinkle in his eye, Jesus finally straightens up and utters words as profound as that one inspirational quote from a fortune cookie that sticks with you long after dessert. Let the one who is without sin cast the first stone. The collective gasp echoes like an ancient symphony, mesmerizing you in the process. The beauty lies in what happens next, backpedaling quicker than rabbits in a magician's hat. One by one, the accusers start to back away, not unlike people slipping out of an awkward family reunion when the topic of politics comes up. Murmuring their own brand of discomfort, they leave her standing there, her vulnerability finally transforming into a kind of incredulous empowerment. And there she remains, a testament to grace and bewilderment, as Jesus looks at her. Is he about to launch into a lengthy theological discussion? Nope. With a voice softer than the evening breeze, he simply says, "Where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you?" The historical significance here is splendid. No one, not a single judgmental whisper echoing around her now. She responds, a hint of disbelief chasing her every word. "No one, Lord." It's almost like hearing your cat confess that it didn't knock over your favorite vase, all while eyeing the remnant shards with a sense of lingering guilt. "Neither do I condemn you," Jesus responds, lifting her up from the ashes of shame. "Go, and sin no more." And with that divine proclamation, the crowd disperses, out into the streets, mumbling, deliberating like they've just finished reading the most enthralling manuscript of gossip. So, dear listener, as you envelop yourself into dreams of justice, mercy, and a sprinkle of ancient drama, remember the strength found in vulnerability, and the grace intertwined with our very humanity. Sleep well, for the journey of grace never truly ends. It continues to unfold, one beautiful story at a time.
Chapter 14. The Stones of Conscience. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we find ourselves navigating a scene that's stickier than honey on a hot summer's day. The streets of Jerusalem, packed with intrigue, dilemmas, and just a hint of hilarity. Yes, you guessed it, we're diving deep into a moment where judgment and mercy collide, like two overly enthusiastic bakers fighting over the last cupcake. As you settle in, I ask that you dim those lights, snuggle under your coziest blanket, and perhaps contemplate if there's such a thing as too much hummus. Because in this bustling city, the culinary debate is almost as great as the one we are about to witness. Have you ever thought about how ancient people would handle their social media? Would they use parchment or stone tablets? Imagine someone posting a meme made from an ancient scroll. And pray tell, what would you wear to a public trial in Rome? A toga? A tunic? Or perhaps a fashionable ensemble made entirely of sheep's wool? Yes, the textures alone would have the ancient fashionistas buzzing. Picture yourself in this vibrant city. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD, the era when people still believed the best remedy for a headache was placing a small live fish on their forehead. Talk about a strange alternative therapy. Now, let's travel to a fairly dramatic scene happening this very moment. You find yourself standing in a dusty square, your sandals slightly sticking to the ground, a remnant of yesterday's olive oil spill. The air hums with tension like a freshly tuned lyre. In front of you, a group of men, looking as stern as a cat that just lost a game of chase, stands poised with stones clenched tightly in their hands. They bear expressions that scream, "We've got to make an example." In the middle of this fiery circus is a woman, caught in a spiral of scandal and shame, her heart apparently beating louder than a percussionist at a wedding. You can almost feel her anxiety. She looks about as relaxed as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Let's be honest, her predicament is worse than losing Wi-Fi on a binge-watching Friday night. The accusers, taller than the average olive tree and just as prickly, proclaim with puffed chests and accusations, "This woman was caught in the act of adultery." You shake your head, thinking, "Oh, come on now. Can they at least supply some evidence? Or are they just winging it like a baker without a recipe?" But wait. Enter stage left with the suave grace of a breeze breaking the heat. Jesus. This is where the drama unfolds, dear listener. He kneels down and begins writing in the dust, as casually as if he were doodling during an overlong lecture on the history of figs. The crowd, electrified with anticipation, starts whispering. What's he writing, you wonder? Perhaps it's the world's first internet meme, or maybe he's sketching the perfect hummus recipe. You can almost hear the internal panic of the accusers as they stare at each other like confused sheep caught in the glow of a disco ball. They realize that this isn't going according to their grand plan. And then, with a confident twinkle in his eye, Jesus straightens up and delivers the zinger of a lifetime. "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." The gasp that rolls through the crowd resembles the sound of 1,000 astonished chickens. One by one, the stones begin to drop, thudding into the dust like lost hopes and dreams. The accusers fumble and grumble, their stubborn confidence retreating quicker than a cat that suddenly discovered a bath. Imagine, dear listener, the echo of silence building. The tension morphs into something altogether different. What strikes you is the sight of the woman standing there, no stones aimed at her, and, it seems, no judgment left either.
As each accuser slips away, it's almost as if the air has taken a collective sigh of relief. Someone finally sent the overzealous bakers home before they could turn the bread dough into a disaster. Jesus, the ultimate gentle soul, turns toward her, a look of kindness illuminating his face amid the desert heat. Where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you? You can practically hear the soft swish of hope fluttering about like a dove finding its way home. No one, Lord, she responds, disbelief mingling with a newfound sense of freedom. In this moment, she almost resembles a meteorite that has landed after a long journey through the cosmos, lost but finally found. Neither do I condemn you, Jesus replies like a comforting hug wrapped in words. Go, and from now on, sin no more. And there you sit, dear listener, soaking in the echoes of mercy and the wisdom of forgiveness. The crowd disperses, whispering about an encounter that will become legendary, while you reflect on the grace that not only changes a moment, but transforms a life. May your dreams tonight be woven with threads of grace, reminding you that in every stumble, there's the potential for forgiveness and change, a promise as enduring as the stars above the serene Jerusalem night. Sleep well, for this divine journey of love and compassion continues, one beautiful story at a time. Chapter 15, The Light of the World. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we meander through a scene as bustling as a modern-day cafe, right when the barista has just hit the espresso button. And oh dear, the line is longer than a Roman road on a hot day. Yes, we're stepping into the ancient streets of Jerusalem, where miracles sprout like daisies and skepticism flows thicker than hummus at a family gathering on a Friday night. Before we dive into the divine, let's get comfy. Dim those lights, feel the gentle breeze tickle your cheeks, and snuggle into your coziest blanket. Perhaps you've been pondering the great mysteries of life? For example, how did they manage without coffee in the morning? Or, would ancient Romans cringe at our health fads like kale? Imagine serving kale to a gladiator. What do you mean this isn't a meat feast? And picture this. You find yourself in Jerusalem, circa 30 AD, at an hour when the sun casts shadows like scribbles on parchment. Imagine trying to update your status on a stone tablet. Talk about cumbersome. Just had a miracle. Would totally recommend. Would you be wearing a tunic or experimenting with those leaf arrangements? Ah, the fashion stakes were high back then. Imagine Roman runway dramas with lines longer than the Nile. Now, let's delve deeper into our story, woven in time and spirit, shall we? You blink your eyes, and suddenly you stand before an ancient marketplace, the air thick with spices that could rearrange your furniture with just a whiff. The stones that make up the walls seem to vibrate with stories, each crack a testament to history. Roosters crow in the distance, clearly upset about something, perhaps a missed opportunity to take center stage in their poultry ambitions. But today, in this sacred space, the air brims with tension. A fascinating figure stands amid the dusty square, Jesus. Clad in humble robes that seem to whisper secrets of his purpose, today he's not just the talk of the town. He's the bright, radiant light cutting through skepticism like a sharpened olive knife. The skeptical Pharisees, dressed in their finest and looking as grim as an undercooked pastry, are ready to challenge him. They're the kind of crowd that would argue about the proper temperature for mutton soup. Seriously, who needs that kind of stress? As the sun begins to dip, casting a golden glow on the worn stone, Jesus steps forward. His voice, calm yet filled with divine authority, rings through the square. "I am the light of the world," he proclaims, like a wayward lighthouse guiding lost ships to shore. Crucial, especially when many ships are prone to dramatic sinkings. The Pharisees, skeptical as ever, recoil as if struck by a gust of wind. "Aren't you just a carpenter's son?" they jest, the disbelief draping over them thicker than the dust on unbaked bread. You find a bit of comedy in there. Expressions, like children trying to grasp the concept of no dessert until after dinner. Wouldn't it be amusing to imagine them bumping into a Roman official and declaring, we may have found the ultimate insult: carpentry. In the midst of this standoff, the air hums with an engaging drama, the audience filled with curious onlookers, some chuckling silently, some gasping theatrically. You get the sense that everyone has dropped their mundane activities, perhaps dropping a few figs in the process, focused entirely on the divine scene unfolding before them. Jesus faces the crowd, his confidence as radiant as a freshly polished chalice. "Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Ah, what a line. You picture the Pharisees adjusting their tunics, realizing they've been caught in a theological game more complex than a puzzle crafted by the gods themselves. Their minds whirl trying to counter such wisdom, but they're entangled in their own scheming selves, like trying to untangle cords in a modern-day computer bag. And in this holy showdown, what strikes you is not merely the words, but the beautiful imagery. The backdrop of the ancient city, the flourishing marketplace behind Jesus, the flickering torches burning brightly as if affirming his powerful declaration. The scene transitions into an ancient painting alive with energy, Drama 101 set against a canvas of timeless truths. The silence that wraps around the crowd speaks volumes, nearly mystical in its tension. The Pharisees sputter and prepare retorts that seem to swirl like summer dust. Yet you can almost hear the laughter of the divine echo as the weight of truth presses down like a heavy but liberating blanket, a reminder that those inhabiting the darkness are just one step away from the transformative light. As you watch, astonished, a glimmer of hope ignites, a thought loops in your mind. What happens when judgment meets grace? The crowd begins to murmur. Nervous whispers float through the air, mixing with the laughter of children fetching their last sweet in the square. Their collective breath holds, the kind of breath you take just before a flipping coin lands boldly, declaring yes or no. As Jesus concludes with a radiant smile, hope fills the air. The light is here, and it's so much brighter than any stone-cold heart can fathom. The Pharisees' faces crumple, their plan as unraveling as a poorly tied tunic. So, dear listener, as we prepare to drift into the realm of dreams filled with light, remember that in the age of ancient stone walls, the softest light can still shine against the darkest doubts. May your dreams tonight be woven with grace and illuminated by the divine light of purpose. Sleep well, knowing each night brings its own miracles, one breathtaking story after another.
Chapter 16. The Man Who Couldn't See Clearly. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we begin with something more confusing than a camel trying to navigate a needle's eye on a busy Jerusalem street: Jesus and his curious divine methods. Picture this: an ancient city where bartering bread is the norm, and the only WhatsApp is an overly gossiping neighbor. Much quieter, but let's be honest, just as dramatic. But let's not dive in yet. First, I kindly invite you to get cozy. Dim those lights, crank that fan to gentle breeze. We're not trying to impersonate a hurricane here, folks. And snuggle into your favorite blanket like a hungry caterpillar, ready to metamorphose into a peaceful butterfly. Now, let me ask you, have you ever found yourself confused when someone said they saw the light, but you just couldn't? Or how about trying to solve a riddle while half asleep, only to wake up fully groggy and think, why did I think this was a good idea? Perhaps you've been to a modern art gallery and found yourself staring at a canvas that looked like it was decorated with a battle between your toddler and a paintbrush. Can you imagine trying to explain that art to a Roman dignitary at an elaborate feast? Ah, yes, that's called chaos, a true reflection of the human condition, I assure you. Congratulations, dear dreamer. You've just woken up in Jerusalem, circa 30 AD, the year everything, and I mean everything, gets turned upside down. The air smells like spices mixed with a splash of something fermenting, probably someone's cauldron of questionable soup. And trust me, the zero-sugar diet does not exist here.
It's mostly bread and perhaps the occasional fish. In this moment, let's talk about the curious tale unfolding in front of you. You hear the chatter of villagers discussing everything from today's market prices to the latest gossip about that rather impressive healer named Jesus. Oh yes, he's quite the sensation, attracting crowds faster than a Roman general could draw a sword. Close your eyes for a moment. Even the wisest sages are able to unseal the gift of imagination. Picture a dusty road, lit with the hues of golden sunlight spilling across ancient stone. You can hear the gentle chatter of townsfolk, interspersed with the occasional bleat of a sheep, blissfully unaware of the miracles happening right under its nose. And there, at the center of it all, stands Jesus, humble yet striking, like a dimply baked loaf of bread, warm, inviting, and a little wobbly on its feet. His fame is spreading faster than a rumor in a crowded tavern, and today he faces a particularly curious crowd, the kind of crowd that thrives on spectacle, almost like it's a Sunday morning service with extra loud hymns and no coffee breaks. Among the throng is a man who has never once seen a sunset, or even the twinkling joy of his children's eyes. Born blind, he stands, patiently, yet the hum that surrounds him is thick with hope and perhaps a little skepticism. Because who could believe that a mere carpenter could restore his sight? That's like expecting a baker to rebuild your house. As Jesus approaches with that calmness that makes sea breezes sound like the nagging hum of a fly, you can sense the tension in the air. What will happen next? With a curious little smirk that only the divine can muster, Jesus kneels down by the man. And what does he do? A rather curious thing, I'd say. He spits. Yes, you heard it. Just a tiny bit of saliva mixed with mud. Honestly, if you were to ask anyone to come up with a healing recipe, I'm pretty sure spit and dirt wouldn't show up in any modern, healthy living cookbook. But hey, who are we to judge the creator of the universe? Jesus applies this curious concoction to the man's eyes, and you can't help but chuckle at the bewildered expression on the blind man's face, as though he's just been offered a fine wine with a rather unrefined label. He's probably thinking, is this a massage for my eyes? Or are we just trying to replicate the local pottery? Go wash in the pool of Siloam, Jesus instructs, and off the man stumbles, guided by blessings floating on the air, and perhaps a few skeptical glances from the curious onlookers. You follow him in spirit, watching as he navigates through curious stairs, dodging chickens like a master dodger avoiding crosstown traffic. Imagine the anticipation coursing through him. I've only known darkness. What if I see a wall and wind up with a bloody nose? Thoughts race as he approaches that sacred pool, a shimmering reflection promising a taste of life anew. He splashes the water onto his mud-splattered face, and as the mud washes away, something marvelous unfolds. The light floods in. His eyes blink as if they are being awakening from a long nap, dim and dreary, then suddenly bright and full of richness. And there, glaring joyously under the resplendent sun, the man opens his eyes and laughs as spontaneous tears wash away any remnants of doubt. The laughter bubbles like that of a weaned child discovering the magic of giggles for the first time. He can see. The world, a riot of color and light, dazzles him, and he is simply overjoyed. Now picture the townsfolk, jaws practically grazing the dusty ground, eyes as wide as saucers. You can't help but chuckle. You'd think they were all witnessing the first ever gladiator match in the local arena. No way. Is he really seeing? I thought he was only good with mud pies. You can almost hear the whispers fluttering in the crowd like the wings of curious doves. And as you float back from this vivid scene, remember, dear listener, you've journeyed through realms of sight and faith, intertwined with hope and laughter. Tonight, may all your sweet dreams paint the light that Jesus shared, reminding you that in every dark moment, divine clarity
Can wash it all away. Sleep well, knowing that miracles and revelations are just one breath away. Chapter 17. The indignant blind man stands firm. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we dive into a story more puzzling than your uncle trying to explain TikTok at a family reunion. Imagine a time when vacations were earned by walking 10 miles in sandals. Yes, sandals, through the dusty streets of Jerusalem. Talk about a hike and seek challenge with a side of sandal burns. Before we immerse ourselves, I invite you to dim those lights, ease that couch into its most comfy position, and nestle into your blanket like a burrito in its last available tortilla. Picture it, snuggled, cocooned, and just on the brink of sleep, drifting mindlessly through the annals of time. Have you ever been in a situation where you had something wonderful happen, but no one believed you? You'd think you had told them you were raising a unicorn in your backyard instead of, say, winning a local pie-eating contest. Have you ever felt like the star of a comedy skit, with everyone watching and wondering if you'd suddenly break out in song, or if you were just going to trip over a rogue rock? Well, tonight, we find ourselves in ancient Jerusalem, in a time when people could argue for hours about the right way to tie their tunics. Spoiler alert, there's really no wrong way, but everyone still had very strong opinions. Yes, congratulations, dear dreamer. You've just waked up in 30 AD, the year everything spins in heavenly circles with a divine twist. Now, let's dive into the heart of our tale. You can feel the sun dipping low in the sky, casting shadows on the bustling streets. The air is a fragrant mix of spices and, let's face it, probably more than a few unwashed personalities. Every market stall holds its own adventure, like picking the right fruit without making eye contact with the overly enthusiastic merchant who insists that, yes, you absolutely need this intricate purple pom-pom to lighten your day. Let's chat about our central figure this evening, our freshly restored blind man, standing before a group of Pharisees who couldn't seem to wrap their heads around the miracle they had just witnessed. Imagine a gaggle of self-assured individuals, clad in fine robes, each wielding their knowledge like a sword. They seem more interested in debating the hairstyle of the latest celebrity than the awe-inspiring miracle of regaining sight. Talk about a misdirected energy. Picture the blind man, his heart pounding like a drum solo at a wedding, as he stands before the interrogators, who shoot questions at him like they're running a game show. Who did this? Where did he go? With skepticism painted all over their furrowed brows, they seem less genteel than a pack of sniffing dogs at a fish market. "Look," he says, a hint of joy dancing in his voice. "I was blind. Now I can see. Only a man sent from God could perform such a marvelous miracle on a Sabbath day." You can almost hear the disbelief reverberate through the air, as if the echo of their collective raised eyebrows is as tangible as the dusty ground beneath their feet. On the Sabbath? How dare he? The Pharisees are hunting for loopholes faster than a cat chasing its tail, clearly perplexed by a miracle that disrupts their neatly arranged theological schedules. And amidst this tension, you chuckle quietly at the absurdity. It's like when your neighbor insists that their tomato plants are all organic, while yours could barely survive your toddler's rubber ducky baptism. The bafflement is delicious. The blind man continues his testimony with an air of inspiration, unyielding even when faced with skeptics who've held a grudge longer than the average family feud. Are you sure you want to argue with a man who can now see? He might as well have been juggling while reciting poetry. What do you think? This Jesus must be a sinner. He performed such a miracle on a day meant for rest, one Pharisee fires back, still convinced of their rightness. But the blind man stands firm, exuding a confidence sanitized from all doubts. If he is a sinner, I can't say. But one thing I do know. I was blind, and now I see. You've reached the crux, dear listener, where clarity beams brighter than the midday sun. Imagine the tension multiplying like the number of loaves shared at the feeding of the 5,000. What a marvelous spectacle that must have been. The Pharisees, unable to grasp the significance of what was unfolding, shift uneasily, a fire igniting an ember of panic amongst them. Now, as the conversation twists and turns, the scene unfolds with a mixture of comedy and drama thicker than Grandma's famous stew. Questions ricochet off the walls,
each one more baffling than the last. "How can this be?" they grumble, as if their favorite scholarly scroll has suddenly gone missing. No doubt the ideal audience for a magic show. Humorously, all the while, the blind man's unwavering heart whispers triumphantly, reminding him that he is not just a pawn in their theological debate, but a symbol of hope. He is more than mere words. He is visible evidence of a miracle that can shake the very foundations of their beliefs. And so, as you float back from this scene, wrapping it in the warmth and joy of the miracle, remember, dear listener, that history is filled with moments dripping in divine comedy, an ever-reminding presence that belief and clarity spring forth in the most unusual ways. Tonight, may your dreams mirror this hope and laughter, promising you that even in the midst of confusion, there will always be light. Sleep well, knowing that miracles unfold with each dawn, waiting patiently for your heart to embrace them, just like that blind man who can now see. Chapter 18. The Good Shepherd's Call. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we begin with a scene calmer than your friendly neighborhood barista after their third cup of coffee. Our story unfolds in the bustling days of Jerusalem, when streets were filled with both merchants and miracles. But first, let's talk about preparing for this journey through time. Dim those lights just enough to avoid tripping over your own untied shoelaces. Grab your coziest blanket, yes, the one covered in mystery fur, and settle into your chair like a perfectly content potato. As we drift into the past, consider this. Who would win a sheep shearing contest in 1st century Judea? The shepherd with the best wool handling skills, or your neighbor with no prior experience but more enthusiasm than sense? Have you ever tried to herd your cat into a carrier? It's like organizing a flash mob of spiteful defiance. And now, dear friend, congratulations. You've just woken up in 30 AD, the year everything was either miraculous or an accidental goat rodeo. Imagine the scent of fresh bread wafting through the air, mingling with the soft cries of the city, the braying of donkeys, and the occasional shout of excitement over that glorious sale on tunics. Because who doesn't love a good bargain amidst miracles, right? Let's delve deeper into the comforting imagery of this age. The sun hangs low over the cobblestone paths, casting soft shadows that dance like the flocks of sheep wandering homeward. These aren't just any sheep. They're the ones who know their shepherd as intimately as you know the location of the nearest snack cupboard. Now, imagine our shepherd. Let's call him Jesus for reasons that should be obvious soon enough. He wanders the lush green hills of Judea like he's auditioning for a nature documentary. Picture him, calling out to his fluffy companions with a voice so warm it could melt the most cynical heart. "Here, sheep, over here." It's the kind of call that makes every sheep perk up like they just heard the ice cream truck, instantly recognizable and undeniably comforting. You might wonder, how does he do it? How does he manage to forge such a bond with these woolly creatures? It's like you wondering how your neighbor's dog knows he's bringing home bacon before even stepping out of the car. Trust me, it's a divine connection, fostered by sweet promises of safety, goodness, and a whole lot of grass. As the sun begins to dip, bathing the world in a golden hue, you can almost hear his gentle laughter ripple through the flock. They gather closely, forming a woolly mass that looks like a soft, bouncy cloud, if clouds were made of very devoted sheep. And hey, if there was ever a time to appreciate the value of flocking together, it's now. Sheep know the meaning of community better than many humans. "Follow me," he calls, and the sheep dash after him with the loyalty of best friends leaving an all-you-can-eat buffet. Each one recognizes him, their good shepherd, with a joy that's contagious. Just like when that one friend of yours shows up after months of absence and you can't help but smile, recalling all the delightful memories. So there they go. The sheep dance along behind him through the winding paths of grass and wildflowers. The soft sound of their feet padding along the ground creates a melodious rhythm, almost like music. And wouldn't you know it, A nearby hill looks like the perfect spot for a picnic. Picture it now. A cozy blanket set out and all the snacks. A delicious divine spread of bread and fish set against the backdrop of the shimmering Mediterranean. You can hear whispers of laughter amongst the flock. And suddenly, it's not just a story about sheep. It's a story about belonging. Each creature knows its place, and when Jesus calls, they're not just wandering blindly. They're stepping into a destiny of love and support. Honestly, it's like when you're in a room filled with good friends and everyone's singing karaoke, even if they can't carry a tune. That sense of joy is radiant. Just as he leads the flock to safety, imagine the world outside. It's chaotic, unpredictable, full of doubts and distractions. Yet here, under the watchful gaze of their shepherd, the sheep feel an unwavering peace. It's like being wrapped in a favorite childhood blanket on a stormy night. The thunders outside are muted, and all that exists is comfort. As you drift deeper into sleep, remember that voice. When Jesus calls, you're not just a simple sheep in a crowd, but one cherished and known. Each name, each cry, is met with understanding and love that transcends centuries. Tonight, may your dreams carry you to those gentle hills, holding on to the promise that you are seen, known, and deeply treasured. So let yourself rest in the divine embrace of the Good Shepherd's call, knowing you belong to something greater. Sleep well, dear listener. May you wake refreshed, ready to follow the gentle whispers that guide your path through the comical and miraculous tapestry of life.
Chapter 19, The Tears of a Shepherd. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we begin with a scene more poignant than a cat's sad meow, the kind that begs for dinner you forgot to serve. Imagine this. It's the year 30 AD in a bustling little town called Bethany, located just outside Jerusalem, where you might find the aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the faint cries of despair echoing through the streets. One might wonder, how does a society keep its spirits high when the market's more crowded than a salad bar at lunch hour? Or, have you ever pondered what conversations might fill the air if sheep could talk? Not another day of grazing, they'd complain, amidst finding them arguing over the last patch of grass like it was high-stakes poker night. Now that you've comfortably settled in your coziest chair, yes, the one that instantly gives you backaches but also wraparound hugs, it's time to dim those lights to an ambiance that says, I might just take a nap, and I hope my neighbor doesn't think I'm lazy. You might want to grab a soothing cup of herbal tea. After all, the only thing more soothing than a gentle breeze is a good cup of tea on a chilly evening. As for getting ready to jump back into time, imagine this. Do you think Martha is the kind of person who can bake bread while having a deep existential crisis? Or does she just opt for takeout? Oh, and let's not forget Mary. Would she rather sit and ponder the universe's mysteries, or join the neighbors in a lively gossip fest? And let's face it, what kind of heavenly technology might we dream up today that could get folks in 30 AD up to speed? Maybe sending messages via carrier pigeon cartoon memes? Congratulations! You've just woken up in the heartfelt tension of 30 AD, where miracles are as commonplace as that dusty old rug in your grandmother's attic that holds family secrets woven right into its fabric. But instead of wrestling with home decor issues, you find yourself on the outskirts of Bethany, right before a sealed cave entrance that's about to become the stage for an emotional showdown. Now, near this cave, you see Mary and Martha, two sisters dressed in garments as graceful as the flowing willow trees that caress the banks of the Jordan. Their eyes brimmed with unshed tears. They're mourning the loss of their brother, Lazarus, who has been dead now for 4 long days. Picture the atmosphere. It's heavy, almost palpable, wrapped around you like a wool scarf on a bitter winter morning. The air is thick with the scent of earth and sorrow, tinged with the whispers of hope that linger just out of reach. Martha, ever the practical one, wrings her hands as though they might somehow squeeze the life back into her brother. If only Jesus had been here sooner, she laments, her voice a mixture of anguish and indignation, preparing for a confrontation that might need to rival a public debate. How many times have you found yourself arguing with a friend about bread dough rising? It's a debate as old as time, where both participants walk away thinking they should have just stuck to making sandwiches instead. Meanwhile, Mary, sitting nearby with her head resting on her knees, nurses her heartache like a cat nursing a new litter of kittens. She's open to feel, raw and vulnerable in ways that trigger your protective instincts. You may have felt this way, echoing her sentiments when you scroll social media and see an old friend thriving, always remembering that one time you bravely wore socks and sandals. The comparison could be overwhelming, but Mary is being overtly courageous. Her silent tears speak volumes, like badly misjudged movie references you wish you could take back. And then, amidst the sorrow, in strides Jesus, not in a majestic manner suited for a royal entrance, but rather with a humbleness that brings softness to the harshness of grief. Is it too much to say he looks like he just walked out of a cozy cafe, slight traces of flour on his garments, and an aura that whispers, "I'm here," and that's what matters. The heavy silence speaks before he does, as he approaches the grieving sisters. "Where have you laid him?" he asks gently, as if inquiring about the location of the perfect picnic spot instead of a grave. You can almost hear Mother Mary from a nearby kitchen exclaim, "Why are you bringing everyone's spirits down? Get on with it, for Pete's sake." As he arrives by the cave, the tension is tangible. Jesus feels the weight of the moment. His heart aches. His spirit mourns as a mix of compassion and determination dances across his face. And then he weeps, less like a sad puppy left alone at home, and more like the deep sobs that resonate through the mountains. It's a display of empathy so profound that even a stone statue might want to jump up and hug him for being the most emotionally available man in all of Judea. You can almost visualize it, the tears rolling down, glistening in the fading light, painting a story of divine compassion. This is the moment when Jesus shows not only his own profound sadness, but also invites you, dear listener, into that intimate circle of vulnerability. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's tears open up a floodgate of your own? It could make the hardest heart soften, kind of like that leftover pizza that mysteriously become gourmet when heated just right. Remember, as you let the scene settle, that sometimes we too must embrace the weight of sorrow before we can step into the light of hope. In those quiet moments beneath the stars, there remains an unbreakable connection between humans and their divine shepherd. A bond that, rather humorously, might bring forth a miraculous surprise you never saw coming, just like the last-minute plot twist in a bad rom-com. So breathe deeply as this heart-warming scene unfolds. May it wrap around you like the sweetest memories nestled deep in your heart, reminding you that even in times of despair, there lies the possibility for joy and resurrection. Sleep well, dear listener. May you wake refreshed and prepared to embrace the miracles waiting in your life, guided by the gentle hand of providence that knows your every tear and laughter. Chapter 20. The Tomb's Unexpected Guest. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord. Tonight, we journey to a moment more dramatic than your last cooking experiment gone awry. Seriously, who knew soufflés could explode? Picture this. It's the year 30 AD in Bethany, a friendly little town just outside Jerusalem, where hot bread and warmer smiles are exchanged, almost like a Twitter thread, but without the hashtags. Now you might wonder, how did folks entertain themselves back then? Did they engage in epic debates about whose donkey was faster? Or did they discuss whether water turned into wine was a miracle or just a really great PR stunt? As you settle into your cozy bed, yes, the one where every spring creaks like an old man after leg day, it's time to dim the lights. Grab that warm mug of herbal tea. It's the gentle hug you give yourself before drifting off to mysterious lands, or, just that dream about forgetting to wear pants to work.
Close your eyes and think, what do you picture a bustling market in 30 AD would sound like? Would the shoppers barter fiercely like they're on a reality TV show? Or would they just shrug and ask to see the manager? And what do you suppose eternal life means to these people? Would they get a chance to order takeout and never feel guilt for the extra calories? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD, the year when things were about to get very interesting indeed. Picture the dusty streets filled with people wearing flowing robes that look suspiciously like the linens you've abandoned in the laundry basket. You find yourself standing outside a cave, or, to put it otherwise, the ultimate meeting spot for dramatic life events. Even the pigeons seem to hold their breath like they've just overheard the juiciest gossip. Before you know it, your senses awaken to the scene around this particular cave. Imagining how Mary and Martha must be feeling, two sisters dressed in flowing garments that seem to absolve them from dust, yet not from heartache. Their eyes glaze with the sadness of having lost their brother, Lazarus, who has taken a rather permanent nap. 4 long days now. If there were a local sleep expert, they would certainly not approve of this arrangement. Martha stands, pacing like an anxious puppy at the vet's office, wrapped tighter than yesterday's leftovers. "If only Jesus had come earlier," she exclaims, sounding like a mother berating her child for leaving their shoes by the front door. You half expect the crowd to nod appreciatively, unanimously agreeing that timing is everything. Kind of like getting popcorn at a movie. You absolutely must have it before the previews start, lest you absolutely miss the point of the whole endeavor. Nearby, Mary sits with her head buried in her hands, carrying her grief like a heavy backpack on the first day of school. Have you ever felt that overwhelmed? Like when you see your to-do list and realize it's longer than the average novel? She lets her tears flow like a bad sitcom that took a serious turn, just when you thought it was all jokes and puns. And then, in walks Jesus. Not like a stormy entrance of a dramatic villain, but rather as if he's simply strolled out of a fresh bakery with the irresistible smell of warm bread trailing behind him. Something about his presence instantly dispels the gloom hanging over this place. One might compare it to accidentally opening a window in a stuffy room. The whole scenario changes. "Where have you laid him?" he asks gently, his voice soft and welcoming like the first day of spring after a long winter. It's as if he's asking for directions to the nearest cafe, not addressing the emotional turmoil buried deep beneath the ground. You might imagine the sisters exchanging glances, thinking, is he talking about the funeral or a menu? As they reach the cave, tension is thick enough to cut with a not-so-sharp piece of ancient pottery. Martha leads the way, her mind racing like a chariot race gone awry. Can you picture her darting back and forth like she's trying to solve a math problem while balancing herself on a tightrope? "But Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. Surely he stinks." Of course, she's referring to Lazarus, and not her choice of cooking techniques. Jesus takes a deep breath, looking around with compassionate eyes, the kind that almost seems to encourage you to open your own heart, even if it feels heavy with doubt. In this heart-wrenching moment, he lifts his voice high, instilling hope back into the air like someone accidentally mixing a reality show's dramas with a heartwarming family reunion. "Lazarus, come forth." And lo and behold, as if summoned from a dramatic scene in a not-so-silent movie, there he is, Lazarus, stumbling forth in grave clothes, half-blinded by the light, likely wondering why everyone's staring at him like he's just broken the world record for fastest snooze. It's a moment so surreal, it puts surprise twist endings to shame. Imagine the collective, "Oh my stars," echoing from the crowd. Somewhere in the background, you might even spot a sheep fainting at the audacity of it all. Just another critical moment in the long history of miraculous events. But let's be honest. It's the kind of twist that not even a well-planned plot could contain, encapsulating the essence of hope that reverberates through time like an echo that refuses to settle into silence. As Lazarus approaches, unwinding from his snuggly death swaddles, The crowd gasps as if they've just found out the secret ingredient in their grandma's famous stew. Their reverent awe charges the air, transforming despair into a deeply shared joy, a collective breath held no longer. Yes, the shout for joy is on the horizon. So as you nestle deeper into your sheets, let this heartwarming scene remind you that indeed, miracles can happen.
The most unexpected ways. And don't forget, a twist awaits you in your own story arc, just as long as you keep your heart open to all the unpredicted wonders. Sleep now, dear listener, wrapped in the warmth of this shared hope. May your dreams be as exhilarating as a man hopping out of a cave after 4 days of being dead, with all the comfort of a cozy blanket and a sweet theological narrative. Chapter 21. The Towel and the Basin. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord as we plunge into a story thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, yet as rich as a double fudge cake. Tonight, we find ourselves at a table that could make your favorite brunch spot burst with envy. The Last Supper. Imagine gathering around a beautifully adorned table, a lavish feast laid out before you, and the tension thick enough to cut with yesterday's bread. Now, settle in, because you're about to experience something more dramatic than accidentally hitting reply all in an email. Before we dive in, I invite you to cozy up into your bed. Yes, the one that creaks like an old chair at a family reunion, the one with the pillows that might or might not have been bought on sale. Get comfortable, because this tale will whisk you away faster than your neighbor's dog escapes his yard during a thunderstorm. Ever wondered how the disciples coped when Jesus had to drop some serious wisdom bombs? Did they use stress balls shaped like loaves of bread? Or did they just ignore each other's snoring and pray for mercy? And as you can imagine, there must have been a lot of foot traffic around that table. With sandals in style, hygiene wasn't quite what you'd find in a luxury spa today. Did foot odor even have a reputation back then? Spoiler alert, it did. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 30 AD, the year of the most dramatic dinner gathering in history. Picture this: dusty Roman streets bustling with people in their finest linens, because let's be honest, those robes really knew how to make a fashion statement. You are inside an upper room, a thin aroma of grilled fish tickling your senses, while smoky incense dances through the air, mingling with the lingering scent of the everyday life just outside. Let's talk about bathing, shall we? As you adjust your imaginary tunic, you notice the lack of a reliable superstore for personal hygiene. The last time the disciples had a solid foot wash might have been in some quality river after a long day of walking. Foot spa was a bit of a misnomer back in those days, as spa explicitly referred to the nearest watering hole. Imagine trying to convince your friends that foot odor was a fashionable statement, a trend that never caught on, but we can dream. So, as the evening settles in, the mood at the table has a flavor of anticipation, kind of like the first bite of a fresh cinnamon roll after a long fast. The disciples are chatting, they're laughing, recounting tales from their recent travels, and trying to navigate whose turn it was to hand the bread. Then enters Jesus, a beacon of calm in a whirlwind of boisterous chatter, like someone walking into a crowded cafe knowing exactly what he wants from the menu. No hesitation. His eyes sweep across the room, locking with each of his followers, their faces radiating a mixture of joy and confusion, much like receiving a surprise Zoom call from a relative you haven't seen in years. "Gather around," he softly calls, as he begins to take off his outer robe. Now, you might wonder, what prompted the great teacher to strip down rather than simply pass the bread? It's time for a lesson on humility that even modern-day leaders would envy. Picture Jesus taking a basin of water and a towel, the same towel you probably wish you'd never recognized at that awkward yoga class. Dipping the towel into the water, he begins to wash the disciples' feet, one after another. A true act of servanthood. Instantly, you might picture a toddler splashing water everywhere while you're trying to enjoy a moment of peace. It's sweet, yet terrifying. Imagine Peter's face. "Lord, are you really washing my feet? I mean, have you seen them?"
The audacity, the humility. It's like watching a cat decide whether or not to jump into your lap. Will they or won't they? He struggles against his own embarrassment. Most of us would prefer to offer a pint of gelato as a peace treaty than endure such an intimate cleaning session. Unless I wash you, you have no part with me, Jesus assures him. With those words, it's as if he's saying, sit tight, Peter. This is not just about grooming. This is about love. The other disciples likely shift uncomfortably as they start arguing internally whether it's okay to ask someone who is essentially a Messiah to wash their feet. That's the beauty of this scene. Immense love, hilarious awkwardness, and the reminder that even the greatest among us can find joy in humble service. Washing feet. Who would have thought it would become the ultimate symbol of selflessness? Slipping off your shoes and letting someone wash your feet is basically saying, I trust you even if you are less than enthusiastic about the notion of personal hygiene. After a round of foot pampering that would put even the most prestigious nail salons to shame, Jesus returns to his place at the table, resembling a proud parent delighted by the antics of their children. He reveals the truth that love is about serving one another, even when it's as messy as sharing a large pizza with a group of friends. Everyone gets their favorite slice, but there's always someone who takes your last bite when you're not looking. As you twirl into your dreams tonight, let the echoes of their laughter, the splashes of water, and the warmth of servanthood wrap around your heart like the softest blanket. Rest easy, knowing that sometimes the most profound lessons come not from lofty mountains or grand speeches, but simply from a towel, a basin, and the willingness to serve. Sleep well, dear listener, and let love weave its miraculous magic into the fabric of your night.
Chapter 22. The Bread and the Shadows. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord, even more than that carefully crafted Italian espresso you desperately need on Monday mornings. Tonight, we venture into a moment thicker than a bowl of chicken noodle soup, yet as rich as your aunt's secret chocolate fudge recipe. As we gather at the infamous Last Supper, where betrayal hangs in the air like the scent of burnt offerings, let's hope it's not a metaphor for dinner. Prepare for a tale that combines intrigue, suspense, and the occasional moment of rolling your eyes, perhaps at a poorly timed joke. Before we slide into this ancient drama, I encourage you to cozy up into bed. Yes, that familiar haven where the sheets feel a tad too scratchy and the pillow becomes a stage for all your wildest dreams, or just a battleground for that notorious battle against insomnia. Get comfortable. Perhaps lay your fan just right to create a whisper of air that wins the night. Now, have you ever pondered what it's like to sit down with your pals, only for one of them to pull a fast one, like sneaking a bite of your dessert when you weren't looking? Or how awkward it is when you have to pass the bread while avoiding the awkward eye contact? Suppose you found yourself at a dinner party where the host suddenly unveils a shocking twist. Has he just returned from the future and knows one of you will end up on reality TV? In that case, you might just want to bury your head in the breadbasket. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD, the year full of dramatic plot twists, intense characters, and a roster of disciples who are truly more connected than your last networking brunch. Picture this. You're nestled in an upper room decorated with rich tapestries, the faint aroma of roasted lamb teasing your senses, and the sound of sandals slapping against the floor, and likely a few awkward footfalls irrelevant to fashion trends. Let's talk about ambiance, shall we? The atmosphere in the room is thick enough to slice. Imagine the sound of utensils clinking and water jugs spilling as laughter fills the air. You can practically hear the aroma of grilled fish wafting toward you, forcing those outdated notions of keto salads down the abyss of history. Then comes the moment that sends chills down your spine. Hearing the sudden silence as Jesus gets everyone's attention, like a barista trying to quiet the coffee shop for an announcement about the new pumpkin spice latte, which won't come out for another 6 months, but the suspense is thrilling. Now your eyes dart around the table, where the usual jokes have turned into nervous giggles. Amongst the brothers who've shared fish sandwiches and last season's gossip is someone you don't quite trust, Judas Iscariot. Sipping wine with that odd glance, as if he knows what's coming, might make you want to switch seats faster than someone swapping out their Netflix. Password. Ever sit next to someone at brunch who suddenly has a story that makes you question your life choices? That's Judas for you at this moment. As Jesus breaks the bread and serves it to his followers, the weight of each morsel feels heavier than your cousin's second helping of wedding cake. You can almost hear the scraping of seats as everyone instinctively leans closer, realizing a lesson is about to drop. But instead of wisdom, you sense a betrayal looming right at the edge of the evening, like an ominous cloud blocking out the sun at a picnic. The moment arrives when you see the subtle exchange between Jesus and Judas. A soft hand reaches out, barely touching, but the weight of it is earth-shattering. Judas receives that piece of bread like it's a hot potato, and just like that, a shadow passes through the room. More drastic than when the Wi-Fi suddenly goes out during binge watching. Instantly, you know, this is it. The betrayer has been unmasked. Suddenly, Judas slips away into the dark night, a shadow melting into the canvas of the world, his plan swirling in his mind like a mystery novel's ambitious protagonist. What could possibly run through his head? Will I be remembered for centuries as the bad guy? Should I have chosen a less treacherous side job? Maybe I should have taken up knitting. The disciples, unaware, are busy munching on bread like it's a delightful afternoon in Galilee. The humor is bittersweet, much like learning that your favorite cafe is discontinuing your go-to pastry, leaving you staring into your coffee cup as you anticipate what will come next. As the clang of dishes fades, leaving only Jesus' voice echoing through the night, you can almost feel the air crackle with unspoken tension. The aroma of bread mixes with unease, and yet, amidst it all, the teachings of love and servanthood float like confetti in the air, bright, colorful, and head-spinning. So, as you balance the weight of stories, remember that even in moments thick with uncertainty and shadowed by betrayal, love and purpose linger nearby, like that pesky sock that always hides in the corner, waiting for just the right moment to emerge. Drift into your dreams now, finding hope in the shadow of the night, knowing that even amidst betrayal and loss, the essence of powerful love remains steadfast, woven into every piece of bread served with grace. Sleep now, and let love's warm embrace cushion you through your slumber. Chapter 23. The Weight Beneath Olive Branches. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord, even more than that cozy blanket you've just wrapped yourself in. Tonight, we're stepping into a moment heavier than your morning coffee post-weekend binge, and more poignant than your neighbor's unsolicited opinions about gardening. Picture this: an ancient olive grove embraced by a moonlit sky, where emotional turmoil mingles with divine purpose. Before we slip into this sacred narrative, I encourage you to find your favorite spot in bed. Yes, the one where that odd lump in your mattress feels like a looming presence, and your cozy sheets whisper sweet nothings to your chilly toes. Settle in, perhaps moving that mysterious sock you've been ignoring all week to an unflattering corner of your room, where it belongs. Now, as we dive deep into this tale, let's ponder some absurdly relatable questions. Have you ever found yourself kneeling in the middle of a field, mentally debating your life choices, like whether to finally switch to decaf? Or maybe you felt the weight of the world on your shoulders during an awkward family dinner, as you maneuver the question, "So, when are you getting married?" Or, "Did you hear about Cousin Jeff's latest business idea?" And let's not forget the lead-up to your big moment, when anxiety crawls up your spine like that one spider that owes you rent. Have you ever wished you could just vanish into thin air? Or perhaps simply combine two thoughts into one soothing mantra, like, "Okay, this is fine," just like your grandma's old peach cobbler. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 30 AD, a time rife with dramatic stakes and the sort of tension that makes your favorite sitcom look like a cozy knitting session. Let's set the scene, shall we? The air is pregnant with anticipation as you meander through an olive garden, ancient trees standing vigil like wise old guardians. Under this dark, moonlit sky, shadows flicker,
whispering secrets only the olives can comprehend. You can almost feel the cool breeze brushing against your cheek, a reminder of the evening's urgency. Isn't it fascinating? Here you are, surrounded by trees as old as time itself, with the kind of gnarled bark you'd probably mistake for your grandfather's arm. Yet, the atmosphere is charged, and there, knelt among the roots, is Jesus, his forehead creased with the weight of what's to come. It's like witnessing your friend preparing for a big presentation, practicing their speech in front of a mirror. Only, instead of a PowerPoint, they've got the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. No pressure, right? The faint rustling of leaves joins the chorus of the soft night as Jesus struggles under the burden of destiny. His prayers rise into the air, soaring toward the firmament like the last wisps of smoke from a burnt offering. You can only hope it's not literal. It's a moment where the air feels thicker than your aunt's famous lasagna. Each breath hangs suspended, heavy with the flavors of fear, sorrow, and an unyielding commitment to love. Have you ever found yourself wondering what you would say in such an instance? What words would emerge from the corners of your soul when the stakes are as high as the likelihood of encountering that smiling neighbor who always forgets your name? "Excuse me, can I have a moment with divine wisdom?" you might whisper as you contemplate life's big decisions, whether to splash some extra cream in your coffee or go for a chocolate croissant. Life is all about those choices, isn't it? But back to Jesus. There he is, kneeling, his heart racing like a cheetah that's just spotted a gazelle. He looks up toward the heavens, asking, "Could this cup pass from me?" You can feel him grappling with the destiny that he's meant to fulfill, like cooking a complicated recipe without first checking if you have all the ingredients. Hello, surprise broccoli. In moments like this, in the shadow of ancient olive trees, time seems to stretch like your gym membership's expiration date. The senses merge. The smell of earth mingles with the sweet perfume of olives, and suddenly you're hyper-aware of the whispers of the night. It's not unlike trying to focus on your work with your neighbors arguing over who forgot to take out the trash. As the heaviness of the moment ebbs and flows, you can't help but feel a grin tugging at the corners of your mouth. Here is Jesus, wrestling with his purpose in an exceptionally peaceful garden, and you can't help but think, life is like an olive, sometimes bitter, but ultimately fruitful, bringing forth the oil of love and kindness that sustains us. So, as he pushes through this moment, preparing for what lies ahead, you are reminded that even in the darkest hours, purpose soars through the shadows like the nightingale's song at dawn. With an exhale, allow the warmth of this ancient moment to wash over you, knowing that miracles, much like your late-night snacks, often come in surprising forms. Drift away now, supported by the beauty of this story, reminding yourself that even amidst the weight of destiny, grace and purpose find a way to intertwine, wrapping around you like the fragrant embrace of an olive tree, loving you just as you are. Sleep well, dear listener.
Chapter 24. The Morning of Miracles. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord, even more than that cozy blanket you've just wrapped yourself in. Tonight, we're diving into a moment brighter than an overambitious lamp on the kitchen table. Think caffeinated squirrels trying to organize a poetry reading. Prepare to be whisked away to an ancient morning that is more miraculous than your uncle's infamous "remember when" stories at Thanksgiving. As we prepare for this sacred journey, take a moment to adjust the pillows. You know, the ones strategically placed to support your neck like a little cloud, soft yet utterly confusing. Perhaps you've also required a quick countdown to confront that one rogue sock lurking beneath the bed. Don't let it stop you. You're on a holy mission. Now, as we step gently into this narrative, let me ask you, have you ever woken up early in the morning and wondered why you have more energy than a toddler on a sugar rush, only to find out that all your plans for the day are going south faster than your attempts at meal prep? Did you ever wonder if the angels have magical coffee that helps them tackle those early mornings while delivering important heavenly messages?
Or perhaps you've experienced the delightful chaos of trying to get the family together for Christmas without accidentally scheduling 2 dinners on the same day. It's dreadful, yet somehow amusing, isn't it? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 33 AD, a time when life was about to take a miraculous turn, a little more dramatic than a soap opera cliffhanger. The air is still cool, drenched in the fragrances of earth and hope, as we find ourselves at the entrance of a tomb. As dawn's light begins its gentle ascent, the horizon blushes like someone who just found out they've been photobombed at a family portrait. You might notice a gigantic stone rolled away, looking as if a very large burrito had been unwrapped, leaving behind only hints of what was. Now, let's paint the picture. You glide toward the entrance of the tomb, stepping gingerly over stones and pebbles like a cat walking on a freshly waxed floor. Inside, there lies an echo of stillness, interrupted only by the soft rustling of linen cloths folded neatly on a shelf, as if someone is trying to make a fashion statement after an all-nighter. You peer inside, wondering how in the world someone folded these cloths in such a tense situation. Was there an epic tussle, or perhaps just a sudden urge to tidy up before exiting stage left? In this moment, the air crackles with suspense. You can almost hear the angels giggling, ready to drop the most sensational news of the century. Suddenly, in a blinding flash of dazzling light, an angel appears. Yes, an angel. Imagine being woken in the middle of the night by none other than your quirky neighbor trying to convince you that extraterrestrial beings exist. But here, it's an angel who bursts, forth with the radiance of someone who just downed 3 espressos. "Do not be afraid," it announces in a voice that resonates like the finest choir. It's that moment when you realize your aspirations of a peaceful morning have utterly failed. "He is not here. He has risen, just as he said." Your mind races, pondering the confusion. You thought your day was going to be ridiculous, like figuring out how many loaves of bread you need to host a small gathering. But this is almost like a theme park ride designed around the greatest miracle ever seen. Just imagine, a divine purpose unfolding. You're standing in a tomb, and the angel gesturing flamboyantly, still glowing like a celebrity under the bright lights of a red carpet. You can even imagine it saying something like, "Life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how fabulous your exit strategy is from earthly troubles." Stumbling back a little and blinking in disbelief, you thought you'd entered a tragic story, but oh no. You are in a comical saga of hope and joy instead. The angel, likely wearing its best heavenly attire, sends you back to spread the good news in a way that almost feels like a cosmic pep talk. With your head swirling with excitement, you take a deep breath, feeling lighter than air and positively bursting with giggles. As you leave, the light streaming through the opening reminds you that hope is not just a concept. It's as tangible and infectious as laughter in a room filled with friends telling pointed dad jokes. In this moment, dear listener, you understand that life can be absolutely absurd and miraculous all at once. The morning of the 3rd day reveals not just an empty tomb, but the promise of renewal, love, and a never-ending supply of joy. Drift away now, wrapped in the warmth of this tale, knowing that even in confusion and darkness, incredible light often finds its way in, urging us to share our own miraculous stories. May your dreams be filled with angels dressed for success, and may you awaken to a world bursting with the promise of God's grace. Sleep well, beloved friend.
Chapter 25. The Breakfast by the Sea. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord, even more than that cozy blanket you've just wrapped yourself in. Tonight's tale is about a morning that's more delightful than finding an old forgotten donut at the back of your pantry. Not that I would ever endorse eating old donuts, but you catch my drift. Prepare yourself, for we are about to dive into a seaside gathering more savory than a family barbecue gone hilariously wrong. Light those dim lights, turn on the fan if you like, and let the serenity wash over you like waves tickling a sandy shore.
But before we find ourselves amidst the miracles of the Sea of Tiberias, let's set our minds to a more relatable time. Oh, those chaotic mornings where you wake up wondering how on earth you forgot to set your alarm for that all-important meeting. Did you accidentally drink decaf? Or did that strange dream about your cat giving you financial advice throw you off completely? Have you ever tried to coordinate a weekend family breakfast, only to find half the crew convinced they had brunch plans with the neighbors? And your cousin, bless their heart, shows up wearing pajamas, apologizing about being half asleep. You know, the usual chaos. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 33 AD, a time where breakfast is about to get holy on the shores of the Sea of Tiberias. The air is crisp and tinged with salt, mixed with the aroma of freshly caught fish sizzling on a coal fire. Picture it. A seagull sneaks up, like that one ant who quietly plucks food off your plate when you're distracted. Now, as you settle into this ancient coastal scene, allow your imagination to wash away the worries of modern life. Imagine you can hear the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore, soothing like the sound of rain on a sleepy afternoon. The sun is rising, painting the sky with pastel hues, as if a painter has spilled a rainbow over it. Birds chirp like little alarm clocks, reminding you that life is indeed awake and happening. Suddenly, your vision sharpens, and there stands Jesus, the resurrected master of miracles, casually flipping fish on the fire. If you half close your eyes, you might even catch a glimpse of him chuckling, perhaps at a joke only he knows, because let's be honest, he's the ultimate punchline of divine humor. Imagine him, with a grin that could stop a boatload of disciples in their tracks, turning to them and saying, "How about a breakfast fit for kings, with a side of grace?" You can almost hear Simon Peter, known for his enthusiasm and occasional foot-and-mouth syndrome, squawking like a startled bird when he recognizes Jesus. "Lord, is that you? Are you really cooking breakfast?" Honestly, who else can turn breakfast into a miracle? Trust me, that enthusiasm is reminiscent of a kid spotting pancakes for the first time. As the disciples gather, each with their sleepy smiles and touches of awkwardness, maybe holding their hands like they were unsure if they should wave or shake, Jesus turns the mood up higher than a Sunday choir's best hymn performance. Laughter breaks the morning air, the kind that is contagious, reminding you of laughter shared over a kitchen table, filled with those you dearly love, even if one of them habitually steals the last of the cereal. Turning his piercing gaze upon Peter, Jesus asks him 3 times, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" With each repetition hitting harder than your everyday alarm, Peter responds earnestly, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." It's a tender moment, layered with humor and grace, painting a portrait of a relationship far beyond casual acquaintanceship. It's like being asked how much you value pizza on a Friday night. The answer is always going to be more than you think. And just as you think the comedy has reached its pinnacle, Jesus dusts off a few crumbs of reassurance, commissioning Peter to feed my sheep. This isn't just a breakfast request. Oh no, dear friend. This is the start of Peter's new job description, not merely a fisherman anymore, but a shepherd. Now, you might wonder, how does one even go about feeding sheep, especially when they're likely to wander off and nibble on everything in sight? Picture Peter with a basket of guffaws, making sheep puns that only other fishermen would find hilarious. "I'm simply trying to catch some volunteer shepherds for my flock." I mean, who wouldn't chuckle at that? Even amid the weight of profound commission and love, it remains undeniably relatable and human. You can imagine Jesus rolling his eyes with playful affection as he teaches Peter and subsequently us all that love, nourishment, and responsibility are inexorably intertwined. Kind of like that time you accidentally baked a lasagna instead of a cake, yet everyone raved about it anyway. As the sun shines brighter over the waters, and the laughter of the disciples mixes with the sizzling fish, you realize this seaside breakfast is a beautiful blend of humor and grace, filled with the promise of care and community. Drifting back into the now and tucking yourself into the sheets, let this sacred yet playful moment inspire restful dreams of love, purpose, and perhaps a few divine punchlines. Sleep peacefully, cherished friend, knowing that life, even in its chaos, is woven into a tapestry of purpose and joy.
And now, dear listener, as our journey through ancient villages, dusty roads, chaotic marketplaces, miraculous feasts, and divinely comedic moments comes to a gentle close, take a deep breath and let everything settle softly around you. Tonight, you walked among people who faced struggles far heavier than ours, lives full of long days under the scorching sun, endless chores, missing sandals, stubborn goats, empty cupboards, and the kind of arguments that could last longer than a Roman parade. Yet somehow, even with all their hardship, their world overflowed with laughter, hope, and small moments of joy that carried them through. Christian religious stories for you witnessed their hilarity, wedding wine disasters, temple chaos, philosophical confusion about bread metaphors, and crowds reacting to miracles like kids discovering free snacks. You also witnessed their pain, sickness, fear, loneliness, exhaustion, and storms that could break even the strongest spirits. And through every moment, joyful or heavy, Jesus met them with compassion, purpose, courage, and miracles that transformed their lives in ways they could never have imagined. Their resilience wasn't born from comfort, it was born from faith, from hope, and from getting up every day despite the dust, the noise, the hunger, and the uncertainty. It's a reminder that the people of the past weren't just characters. They were survivors, dreamers, and believers navigating a world much harsher than ours. So as you lie here tonight in your soft bed, wrapped in clean blankets, surrounded by calm, be grateful for the warmth, the safety, the quiet, the conveniences, and the peace that ancient people could only dream of. Let their strength remind you of your own. Let their faith soothe whatever weighed on you today. Now rest. Let your breath slow. Let your heart soften, and drift into a peaceful sleep, held gently by the same hope that carried them through their days. Good night, dear listener.